affect the lives and the education of the children that we serve here in Clay County and their families. I pray, God, that as we endeavor to make some big decisions, Lord, that you would guide our hearts, that you would guide our minds. Thank you, Father, that you are sovereign in all things, and that you've promised that if we ask for wisdom, you'll give it in abundance. So, Lord, we're asking for your wisdom today. I pray, Father, for our country, Lord. When it seems like all the world around us is just changing and unsettled, Lord, I'm so grateful that we can come to you and know that you're faithful and that you never change, and that your word is always true, and we can rest our hearts there. I pray, Father, that your peace that surpasses all understanding would guard our hearts and our minds today and every day. In your name we pray. Amen.
And we'll start the workshop now, and want to welcome all of the citizens of Clay County. I know that all of those in the room right now are either, I guess we're all employees of the district in one way, shape, or form. Hope you had a good lunch at the State of the County. Mr. Brodsky stepped in a few minutes late, that's why we're starting a little bit after 2 o'clock. So at this time, I will hand it over to you, Mr. Brodsky, and or yes. Mr. Fassa, whichever would like to
Sorry for my
lead.
Couple minutes of tardiness. I experienced some of that growth on the road. On my way back from there, they had 209 was shut down into one direction. So I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, do I call somebody? Do I, what do you do in that scenario? So I'm extremely embarrassed. So I apologize for being a couple minutes late. I want to thank the board for being here today and wish everybody a happy new year. And of course, the purpose to today's meeting is to talk a little bit about some of the growth and some of the areas of concern. I view the role of the superintendent is to bring forward those needs that the district have to provide the best possible environment for our students. So the intent of today's meeting is just to simply have to bring those needs back to you. We've already had one public meeting in which we've expressed some of those needs. I know that Mr. Foss and his team has met with board members, some board members more than once, on the issue to start the ball rolling as far as what to do with high growth areas within our district. And so the intent of today is to bring forward not only the areas of needs, but potential solutions for those. I know that in formulating how to do this workshop, the meetings that were held individually with board members, some of the considerations that board members wanted to bring forward were considered. You're going to see that, hopefully in today's presentation. So what we're hoping for is honest dialogue related to these particular areas, trying to be focused and for the board to provide some direction as to how they believe that these areas should be resolved. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Fossa.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I put this together because we're looking for some direction from the board in these areas. So these are some areas that we have pointed out at the last board meeting that need some help. And we're going to address these areas looking at the high school. This will look at one high school really as far as needing some help, and that's going to be Ridgeview High School. They have quite a bit of students there, and there's more coming. They also have 38 portables on campus, and they don't need any more. Do you? Just wanted to make sure. From there, we're going to roll into Lake Asbury area because that's the center, or if you will, the epicenter of all the development. I'm going to change the word from growth. It's development, is what it really is. So that's the epicenter, and it's really following the trajectory of the First Coast Expressway. So while there is no immediate need, we need to set up Lake Asbury Junior for success, and that's what we're going to look to try to do. From there, we're going to roll into a couple of elementary schools. We're just going to talk a little bit about Patterson, but the real need is actually at Tynes and giving them an opportunity to be successful as well. And from there, we'll roll into elementary school R. At that point, that'll kind of secure what we're looking for as far as the actual growth piece or the development piece or the piece where we're looking at doing some redistricting. Take a quick break if that's okay with everybody, and then roll into talking about Keystone and what our plan is for them. Okay? All right. First of all, thanks for everybody coming today. You've seen the slide before. This is the senior high school attendance boundaries. This is all high schools. And on the left-hand side, you can see the percent capacity. I do want to talk a little bit about how the percent capacity is developed. What I look at is two numbers. And this was inherited by, from what I guess Jim Connell had set up before. And the two numbers we look at is the fish capacity, the Florida inventory of schools, houses. It's how many seats there are. And the other capacity is the size of the cafeteria. Those drive your percentage. Whichever is smaller is the number that we use. And there are several schools that have smaller cafeterias, and we use those numbers. And I'll point those out to you. So if we're looking at, here's all of our high schools. Oak Leaf High School is at 106%. Now that's looking at the number of seats as compared to the number of students that are in there. Middleburg looks at the size of the cafeteria because it's smaller. If you were to look at the number of seats at Middleburg, they're at 71%. So there's space there. There's just not enough cafeteria space. I just wanted to show you how that can actually affect those numbers.
Mr. Fawcett, has this information been added to the backup for this meeting?
That information, this is a little bit different, you're right, on what you said, but there's no substantive changes to the actual presentation. Everything's the same. I moved some things around for presentation purposes and to make it look a little bit easier. So we are adding that right now, I hope, to the backup. So it's there.
Mr. Brodsky, for the future, when we schedule a meeting and there's backup, something this important, this really should be attached to the backup when it's published so that the community has access to what we have access to. We can't have a meeting and not have the backup on something this important. It feels like we're not being transparent.
Well, like I said, the information is pretty much the same. There's no substantive changes.
People
It's
shouldn't have to
just
go
more.
search for
I
your
totally agree with
presentation.
you. Yes, ma'am, I get that. But you're right. If you're going to put them side by side, well, this looks a little different, but the data's the same.
It's a separate agenda. The agenda needs to have the backup attached to it, always.
Right.
Thank you. But you're in the process right now of having that put in?
Mhm.
Thank you.
So I'm looking at the Ridgeview option, is what I'm calling this, the Ridgeview High School option. You can see the numbers there. Looking for at Oakley, their attendance right now is like 106%. Like I said, if we made the change, it would go down to 92% capacity. If we, in Ridgeview, would go from 67% up to 84% change in capacity. These numbers, as I was explaining before, are really more for me. The way the county's broken up, it's on the software is broken up by what they call study areas, and they have numbers. So I use those numbers. So I looked at number 9A and 26 as potential areas to go ahead and send over to Ridgeview High School. It's bounded in the south by Old Jennings, to the west by Jennings State Forest, down the middle by Tynes Boulevard and Trail Ridge, and then to the west over here by the actual boundary of Ridgeview High School. So this is what it looks like now. If we made the change, this is what it would look like there.
Are these current students or projected growth?
These are current students from the last update that we had. And I did want to make a note, transportation has seen this before. They've seen the actual presentation. So if we're looking at the distance to Oak Leaf High School from central to this area, it's about 6 miles. And the distance to Ridgeview is about 5.4 miles. So it's a little closer to go to Ridgeview High School. You can kind of see how they are on the map. Here's Ridgeview, here's Oak Leaf. So it's a little bit closer. And you can't get to Oak Leaf this way. You have to kind of come down and then go up.
Mr. Fassa,
Yes, ma'am.
question about Middleburg High, because I know that this has come up, particularly from the Fox Meadow neighborhood, which is in this section to the left, that 9A area right there. Yep. And their comment is we have always sent our students, our children to Middleburg High in the past. Now they're sending us to Oakley. And my question is, and I guess I just want to make a note, you had said that Middleburg High is at 98% capacity. And that was the key reason that I have heard in the past number of years as to why we've not been able to make the change to Middleburg High, because our capacity is so high already there. And is that continues to be the case, I would assume?
It is bound by the size of their cafeteria.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because it's really, the cafeteria is, because the other was lower.
Right, it was like
They have plenty
71%
of
based
space.
on seats.
Right.
But if you're looking at the size of the cafeteria, again, that is the parameter that I'm supposed to operate with.
But that would be
Whichever
the
is-
98 percentile.
Yes.
Okay.
How long ago was it that they were at Middleburg and then redistricted to Orange Park, Oak Ridge?
When they open the school.
Yeah.
So
They-
whenever
it's
they
been
open the
long
school.
ago.
And that's how they do it a lot of times. When we need to fill a school, they'll just reach far, which we'll
Right.
talk about when we look at Lake Asbury.
Right.
So when Lake Asbury Junior opened, we made a big reach to try to get students to come in. And you'll see that on the graph as well, which made sense at the time because you needed to put students there. But at the time now, it doesn't work so well.
Thank you.
So this is what I call the Ridgeview option. Continuing looking at the Ridgeview option, people want to know which neighborhoods are we talking about. So we're looking at Pine Ridge, Two Creeks, Fox Meadow, Whisper Creek. The new neighborhood that's coming in, Fox Meadow, Unit 8A right here. Just got a call, I think I told you this last week, that I got a call from Orlando. Someone's purchased that property and they're going to be building in there. It's a great little piece of land, it's very exciting.
Mr.
Me?
Foxon,
Yes.
are you talking about the 80-some acres right in there, that last phase of Fox
It's,
Meadow?
yes, there's all these little lakes in here and everything.
Yeah.
It's right across from Linda Lakes.
Right.
Great little
Yes,
spot.
it initially was to be part of the same covenants and restrictions of Fox Meadow and stay at 1 acre, and then we were told repeatedly it could get changed to where it's 3 acre. Do you know if that's happened with the new?
I can actually, and what I will do is the county has already got it parceled out. And so I'll send you what I have, we can look at the size of those
Just
lots.
curious, I mean, a lot of people in Fox Meadow are just gonna stay in Fox Meadow and go
Right.
to their homes, but.
Well, you know, they
That
wanted
makes
to
a
bring
huge
the road
difference.
all the way through
Mm-hmm.
and tie it into Long Bay.
Right.
But there was some issues with that because they wanted to change the density there,
Mhm.
and which really didn't jive with Fox Meadow.
Right.
So the planning commission, we rejected it. We said, no, that's not the same. You know, you're telling us, and they're saying, well, Trail Ridge has, well, I don't care what Trail Ridge has. That doesn't go with them, sorry, going down the planning road.
No,
But that's
yeah.
just trying to answer your question.
And the covenants in the Fox Meadow right now had been working on getting the covenants upgraded and updated, pardon me. And I know that they were getting a remarkable response
Okay.
to getting
So
those
we're on-
covenants updated because they did not want that road to come into Long Bay.
Yeah.
That's a game changer. If
Mhm.
it happens, that does change things quite a bit.
Mr. Fossa, do we know how many homes they plan on building on this?
In Unit A, it's about 80 homes. Great, there's some really cool stuff in there, so if you're looking for a place to go, that may be it. It's got some great lake views and everything. Pretty
So
interesting.
what will that do to the Ridgeview High School's capacity on these 80 homes?
20% of that would be, I'm sorry, it's like around 15% of that would be high school.
Okay,
This is not a huge number.
it's not a big number.
So here, I'm just kind of showing you what the two study areas have for numbers, about 362 kids that would be affected to go over to Ridgeview High School. This is the Ridgeview option. And again, this would bring Oakland down to about 92%, allow for growth, and bring Ridgeview up to about 84%, which is what you want. We had the state here the other day, and they're saying, your goal, FOSA, is to be balancing out your schools. I said, yeah, that's easy to say from Tallahassee,
Yeah.
but it's a little different animal here sometimes.
Somebody needs to get in.
Can I ask another quick question?
Absolutely.
And I'm not certain if I'm thinking, there's, as you come up the expressway, there's a neighborhood immediately on the right.
Whisper Creek?
And that's what that is right there.
Whisper Creek, yes.
And so Whisper Creek is the one that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Got
I
it.
remember
Thank
when,
you.
before they built the expressway, it was way
I just
over the
wanted-
road, it was way back
exactly.
in there.
I just want to
Now
make
they're
certain
there.
that I remember, because I've had a couple of parents who have asked about going to Ridgeview from Whisper Creek, so I'm like, whoa, this one
And
is what they.
in a later slide, I'm gonna show you that the county has a road extending off a trail ridge, it's on paper, and it's gonna snake down through here and then tie into here.
Oh,
Which really, again, is part of the Challenger
Yes.
area, and
okay.
Mr. Smallwood's
Yep.
space in there.
So that'll give Whisper Creek another option of getting out of there
Right.
instead
They'll
of
be able
having to go
instead of
right.
having to go up here, they'll be able to jump right down on Old
And
James,
then,
on Blanding there. I'm sure they can't wait for that to happen.
Yep.
All right, so this is Oak Leaf High School option 2, the Orange Park option. this is one of those grabs that had happened because these students used to go to Orange Park High School, and now they go to Oakleaf High School. It's this study here, number 5, again, the number just for me, and we're looking at that, and it's about 459 students that would be affected here. It looks like these two neighborhoods connect, but they don't. They may share fences, but they don't share a road. If you want to get over to this side, you have to go all the way up to Argyle Boulevard and come back through and work your way back. So the people talk about not trying to split neighborhoods. This isn't splitting a neighborhood because they're not the same neighborhood. Like I said, it's a large growth of kids. If we don't do anything, Oakleaf will continue at 115% continue to grow, and Orange Park will stay the same because there's just no growth in Orange Park.
Currently, all of these students go to Oakleaf Junior High School, is that correct?
They go to Oakleaf Junior as well.
And the neighborhoods, Pine Ridge, Two Creeks, Fox Meadow, go to Wilkinson Junior?
They do.
Thank you.
Now, did we switch this when we made the changes to Argyle Elementary about 5 years ago? Is that when we made this change to Orange Park High School?
I don't know.
Say that again? What was?
When we made the changes for, I guess Oakleaf Junior was overcrowded, so we took the 6th grade out.
We took the 6th grade out, so we didn't
Did we do
touch.
anything with the high school at that time?
No. And you're right, there was problems at Oakleaf Junior, so taking the 6th grade out and putting them back at Poe and Oakleaf Village,
Right.
that was
And
a
Argyle.
huge help, and Argyle as
And
well.
Argyle, yeah.
That was a huge help. If we did make the change, Oakleaf High School would go to 87%, and Orange Park would go to 85. We're looking for, trying to achieve that balance that we're looking for. The neighborhoods that it would affect are all the old Sutton, there's a bunch of different old Sutton neighborhoods. The Spencer, Holly Park, Cranes Landing, Hammock Grove, these are all built-out neighborhoods. I do also want to talk about neighborhoods that are coming into this area as well. The distance-wise, currently they go about 5.2 miles. They would extend an extra mile to their distance, and Daryl is here, right? Buddy is here. Okay.
I put it in MapQuest, it was a difference of 2 minutes. It's
About 2
15
minutes?
15 minutes and 17 minutes, yeah, it was a difference of 2 minutes.
However, that 17 minutes is on Blanding Boulevard.
Right, right.
And once we start discussing.
So these are the two new neighborhoods that are, I kind of call them together, it's Cheswick Oaks and Wilford Preserve. It's about 471 homes, and you guys had asked me to try to time these developments out. And so what we're looking, and a developer can build about 70 homes per year. So if I'm looking at this particular development, I just divide by 70. I know there's 2 developers in there, and then divide by 2, and that's where we end up with probably about 3 years to complete that particular neighborhood. And it's going, I see all the other day we had an impact fee check for over $500,000. And I was looking to see what lots were coming in. There's a lot of them that were coming in here. And just to let you know, this time last year, we're actually ahead of where we were by almost $1 million. So they're still building, and they're coming. And that's all the impact fees figure, 7,000 apiece, just to see how many homes are coming in.
On this road, can you show us Cheswick Oaks and where that's going to end up landing?
So, well, these are here. These are
No,
the
I'm
2.
talking about the road.
The road.
Cheswick Oaks right now is a dead end.
Yes.
And they have now started expanding it.
Yeah, they're gonna connect through here, and these guys will be able to drive through here. Eventually, what they're gonna do is they're gonna connect this road here, which is coming out here, Oakley, because OVE is here, and make the tie through all the way across. Eventually.
Do
The
they have
county
a
just
timeline for that?
bonded out quite a bit of money to be able to do this. It's a little lower on their priority list, because there's some other roads that they're looking at, but this is eventually, you won't have to go up to Argyle to get there. You'll be
You
able
won't
to
have
stay
to
in
go
Clay
to
County.
Duval County to
You'll be
get
able to stay
to
in
Clay
Clay
County.
Do they have a timeline, Mr. Fawcett?
They do not. And at the last meeting, they showed us the list, and I was talking to the engineer, and he said, it's on that list. I can't tell you when it's gonna happen. I apologize for that. But it's exciting to see that it's gonna come along. You don't have to go to Duval to drive around in Clay. So I just wanna let you know how we arrived at this number. Go too far? Okay. So this is the both option. What if we did both? What if we took some, sent them to Ridgeview, we took some, sent them to Orange Park? We could do that. The 2 maps up and below show you what it looks like now, and if we went ahead and incorporated this group to go to Orange Park, the 159 students, and if we incorporated this section to go to Ridgeview, the 360 students. That's what it would look like. Those two, MAC 26 and 98 for the Ridgeview plan is about, and this and the Orange Park plan together, about 820 students. What would that do? It would bring Oak Leaf High School to 77%, which you say, well, that's pretty low, but that would allow us to get rid of some of those portables that we talked about, that 38, almost 40 portables there. And bring Orange Park to 85, we discussed that earlier, and Ridgeview to 84, sort of balancing things out. So my question to you is, I need your help, you know, which one, I need guidance from the board to see if any of these are something that you would be interested in, and I think that we need to act sooner rather than later on these situations.
So go back to the Cheswick Oaks and Wilford Preserve. Are you anticipating those 471 homes going then to Oak Leaf High or going to Orange Park High?
These would be Orange Park High School students.
Are they currently zoned for Orange Park, or are they currently zoned for?
Currently zoned for Oak Leaf.
Okay, so before they even start building, could we go ahead and zone those for Orange Park?
We could. But that would mean, you know, the buses driving through, you know, through here, and we can certainly do that. I can point them in that direction. They've already started building probably Wilford Preserve, but certainly the Cheswick Oaks can be pointed in that direction. But then we end up with a patchwork all over the place, and it becomes a challenge for transportation doing that. But that's their job.
So over to the right, like this whole green area, that's all Oak Leaf?
No, so I'm sorry about that. Let me back it out a little bit further. This one shows them both. Okay. So right here you can see this is the Cheswick Oaks and the Wilford Preserve, and you can see that they're in the Oak Leaf area. Everything to this side, this is the golf community, and there's just no connection between Orange Park.
That's
Country
Orange
Club.
Park Country Club?
That's
Yes, Orange Park Country Club right over here.
Okay.
And look at them, I mean, they're right in each other's backyard,
Mhm.
but you can't get there from here. So that's gonna end up with the high school option here. Oak Leaf High School needs help. There are too many kids there, and there's not enough space. So I'm looking at 3 different options. As a 4th option, we could do nothing and just let it ride and see what happens.
What are the plans for a high school? Are there any plans in our 10-year plan for a high school in this area at all? So at this stage, and there are no other additional plans, okay. So at this stage, we would need to,
And I think it's important to point out that we don't just get to decide to build a high school.
No, that's
oh,
correct.
no, that's why I was asking about the 10-year plan.
But we don't
Because
even
that was,
determine.
there had been a plan in the future
Right.
for, but that high school, there was one high school, as I recall,
The
that was.
high school
that
is
was
actually in
Green
Government
Cove.
Park.
Right,
South
right,
Green
that,
Cove.
I'm just making
Yes,
certain
ma'am.
that's the only one that we had heard about a plan for. Yeah.
And there are parameters that the state sets that we must meet capacity-wise before they will sign off on us
Correct,
being able to build a new high school. So I think it's important to note, we still have a lot of capacity at a lot of our high schools.
And I don't mind saying that we had the senior director for planning facilities and construction here the other day. I think I mentioned it a little bit. She was over at St. John's because they're going to be building 26 new schools. And on her way through, she called and said, "I'd like to stop by and see what you guys are up to." So she spent the day with us, and we kind of went through what we were looking at. And she said, "Great, this is what we want. We want you guys to be balancing things out." Okay. So now I want to roll into the junior high piece. And
Mr. Fawcett,
Yes,
if you
sir.
want some direction from the board, some discussion.
Yeah.
I'm concerned if you go to 3 different things, there won't be a focused discussion on
Sure.
what
Right,
direction
right.
you would like for the high school situation.
So let me back up and then we'll look at the discussion for this right now.
Can we talk about the option number 1 and what the junior high zoning looks like for those affected neighborhoods?
So the junior high zoning, what we're looking at here, right now, they're already going all the way over to Wilkinson. This is the junior high zone. They go to Wilkinson.
Okay, they all go to Wilkinson, the ones that we're considering?
The divider for Wilkinson is 21, coming through here, coming up with US 21 right here. And then you can see there is the expressway, Route 23, which is a long haul for someone who's living in one of those neighborhoods to go all the way out there. But because, because it's really status quo, I haven't addressed that area at all. The three areas we really wanted to address were the areas where all the development, and there's really not any development in that area for Wilkinson at this time. All the development that we're looking at is up in here, and over here.
How long is the bus ride for some of those kids?
I haven't taken the ride, so I wish, and I'll find out for you. I'll give Daryl a call and we'll see how long that ride is.
This is way out of left field, but I'm just thinking Keystone has the junior, senior high situation. I don't know if that would ever be a possibility at Ridgeview, with those kids, if we're gonna rezone them to go to high school there, what would it look like? I guess that would change the capacity with their entire zoning, not just those neighborhoods there, so.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know how to
Right.
attempt that right now.
Right.
There are quite a few schools in the state
Mhm.
that do have grades that go from 7 to 12.
Mhm.
And there's up at Hilliard and all the way down to Monroe and even Pinecrest, which is the Bowls of the South, is one of those type of schools too.
It would probably be easier to make the elementary a K-8 instead of the high school a junior, senior.
The K-8 is sort of where a lot of, and St. John's
They
does,
have
we
a lot.
toured the school
Right.
at St. John's, it was a K-8. There's
Yeah.
2,500 kids, but it was a K-8. 3 stories, but pretty crazy. But they're making it work.
They are.
So we're back to the junior high PC. Oh, we want to discuss this. So
The
we're
high
at that
school.
point now. I need direction from
Yeah,
you.
going back to the high school, I don't think any of us want to step out and say, I think we should do this. Because it's a difficult decision, it's a difficult choice, obviously. Some of these make sense. I'm looking at the Oakleaf to Ridgeview High School option with Jennings State Forest on it. And I'm thinking, well, those kids are currently going to Wilkinson Junior High. I would assume a lot depends on, here again, Blanding Boulevard and what happens at the 218 intersection. Because I have sat at that intersection for a long time trying to get to Wilkinson or Clay Hill or that area. And similarly, when I'll be honest, when Mr. Fossa said, and we're talking about sending Argyle to Oakleaf, or Argyle to Orange Park High, my initial reaction was, oh, ho, ho. When I used to teach at Cherry, when all of those kids came to Cherry, and they were not happy. They were not happy children, and it was not so much the distance, the mileage, it's Blanding Boulevard. And we're asking them to sit on Blanding Boulevard even further to go to Orange Park High from Cherry, which is really, it's only 3 or 4 stoplights that are not fun. Sitting on Blanding Boulevard on a Friday afternoon trying to get home. And we would have to answer to the parents as to why their children were not home, because they were sitting on Blanding Boulevard waiting to turn left on Argyle Forest Boulevard. And once they hit that, it was rock and roll, get home. But they would sit there for almost a half an hour. And it's just like, now, granted, traffic has improved somewhat. Blanding Boulevard and Argyle Forest Boulevard is still the worst intersection in all of Northeast Florida, according to the TPO. And it's like, whoa, this is, I just don't envy the decision to send more children down that road. Argyle is in such a weird location that no matter how you want to get there, you have to go through Duval County to get back into Clay County to go to Argyle. And that group of students is at Oakleaf Junior, which is right next door to the high school. And it's like, so now we're going to say, okay, you get to go to Oakleaf, but nope, you don't get to be a knight, you have to be a race. Yeah, and which, that's I know the decision is going to have to be made at some point.
Can I just ask another question? And Mr. Fosso, you would know this, I would hope. But I know for a while, when Oak Leaf wasn't at capacity, we were taking students from Duval because they had an interest to come. I assume that stopped based on capacity. We don't have that issue anymore. So we're just looking at only Clay students.
Mr. Boyack, do you still get people who sneak in?
I mean, that's inevitable. You've got, and you don't want to say sneak in, but you do have some people that are unaccompanied minors or some various ways that find their way in. But I mean, we do have a social worker, and she does do home visits and those sorts of things. But I'm not going to tell you that people don't get around the system.
But is it in great
No,
numbers?
we're not accepting. No, there's no. I have not signed there's no SPRs for anybody living outside of my district right now.
But you currently have
Controlled
students.
We've never had.
You currently have students that are,
Very few as far as the SPR numbers. So I mean, just to give you a specific number, as of right now, we've got 75 students on SBA's total.
okay.
Mr. Boyack, is that because they're in academies?
Most of it is academies, ACE, those sorts of programs. The major out-of-counties are SPEs for employees.
Yeah.
Those are it. And 31 of those 75 are seniors right now, so they would not be impacted by this whatsoever.
Well, I'm looking at our options. To me, option one makes the most sense of the two that we've been presented. I understand the advantage to doing both. But I'll go ahead and stick my toe out and tell you guys that that's kind of where I'm leaning. I think that it seems to be the fairest when I think about what's offered at Oak Leaf versus what's offered at Ridgeview. You do have the IB program at Ridgeview that's comparable to ACE. The travel time is shorter instead of longer.
The skill house and option one being the Ridgeview High
The
School.
Ridgeview High School option.
I, like you, were you finished, Ashley?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like you, Ms. Full, I have a hard time taking the kids that attend Irvell Elementary and then as when they get to high school, sending them all the way down Landing. I agree with Mrs. Bull on that, although I understand my own house has been redistricted 3 times. So, you know, we started out at Doctor's Inlet Elementary, then Fleming Island Elementary, then Swimming Pen Creek. We started out at Ridgeview High School and then Fleming Island High School, so I understand how it happens. And the option one makes sense to me. And here's the thought, I'm gonna share something, was an email that I received from a parent chastising us for starting too little too late, and that she felt that we should have started in September or October, and I agree with that, because this is, I feel like we're being rushed right now to make this decision so that, you know, on the 26th we can choose so that we have allocations in place. I understand the reason why we are rushing, but I agree with this parent. I think this should be probably postponed a year so that we really can, you know, give parents time to absorb all of this, do all the research and all the work, which is not saying that you haven't. You have, and this is excellent information you've given us. Having said that, I have to share it because it's a valid concern from the community. And the thought was that if we are making these decisions and then officially voting on it in March, open enrollment will have passed, which will have to extend. Charter and private schools enrollment for next year will already be filled up for parents to get their students on the wait list. And it creates more havoc for the families, and that's the concern. And I totally agree with all of that, I do. But of course, you know, we have to do something, I feel. So, having said that, I understand, you know, could we do option one for the high school, and then if we find that it's still an issue in another year or two, look at the second part of it and make another decision? Then is it necessary to do all of it right now?
I do not feel that it's necessary to do it all right now, as far as the high school piece.
Right, okay. Well,
If we did it all, we could allow us to do some of the portable reduction, which
I
we're
understand,
after.
which we have to do, and
Which we
as
will
per
have to.
statute, we need to, so. And I know, I understand, rip the Band-Aid off now and get it over and done with, because redistricting is, it hurts everybody, everybody's upset by it, so.
But your juniors would be able to stay, it's not like we're taking someone out and saying you're going to a whole new school. So if you're a junior, you would be able to finish at Oakley. And
Would
that's
they
fair.
have transportation?
That would be, when we had talked about it before, and I don't wanna talk out of school because Daryl's not here, but
Right.
I can't see why we wouldn't. I mean, if we're making this happen, it's on us, so I would say yes.
Okay, I'm just
But
making
again,
certain.
that's not my role to say that.
Well, we couldn't possibly redistrict, allow students to stay and not provide transportation.
Correct.
We absolutely cannot do that.
I agree with
If
that.
we make this change, we have 100% have to provide transportation, whatever it costs.
While we're talking about high schools, the projected growth in the Lake Asbury area would be zoned for Clay High, correct?
Clay High,
And we're okay there on
right
capacity?
this time, we're okay there.
Okay.
And again, because of our interlocal agreement that we have, if we do fill up, I need to look at the next contiguous schools on, Ridgeview, which is still has capacity.
Okay.
But keep
So
in mind,
none
as
of
that
that
fills
growth is
up,
coming to Middleburg?
eventually we'll have that other new high school, and a lot of those going to Clay High will go to that new high school.
Right. My concern was that, is the Clay High and Middleburg High boundaries touch? My concern was, is any of that development spilling over into the Middleburg
Right.
area if we're already, which, I mean, clearly just a cafeteria expansion would solve that issue, but I just was curious if we've looked at that long-term as far as once all of these developments are built out, how does that affect Middleburg High School?
And I think the cafeteria, isn't that on the 5-year plan for 2 years from now, or 2023? I'm pretty sure.
For Middleburg?
Middleburg's cafeteria, wasn't that on there?
It's on the phone.
I thought so. Well, we've given you no direction, sorry.
Question,
I feel like we have.
A little bit.
question for you, Mr. Fassa. Once we make some idea changes, whatever decisions, whatever you want to call it today, is there a way that we can publicize this to the public with the anticipation of what we're doing at the 26th meeting? Can we get an ad in the newspaper? Can we, obviously on My One Clay and all of that good stuff?
I think there's a way to, because I know we've done it in the past where we've reached out specifically to those families that are affected.
Which is what we absolutely need to do, and let them know that
That's where
their house is affected, their children's education,
I mean,
where
this,
they're going.
like, I'm just looking at the Fox Meadow neighborhood, and I'm looking at that part, I use that because that is by far one of the largest neighborhoods in that group, along with Two Creeks as well. Well, they're all growing, as we say, and getting the word out.
We plan on going to a high school and having a community meeting. They're gonna follow
Right.
what, I met with Denise Covage over at St. John's. Oh, what do you guys do? And when they come up with a plan, they take it out to the community and they listen to what the community says. If their points are great, they make some moves, and they do what they can. Because they have a need, they can't help that they have a need, but they wanna be forthright with the community, and so do we. So that would be, I'm gonna go listen to the folks that are building 26 new schools, and I'm gonna see how they do it. And that's
Right.
what they have said. So they get a plan, they take to the community, this is our plan, we listen to what you have to say. If we can make adjustments, we do. If we can't, we say we
This
heard
is
you.
what we have
and
to do.
This is what we have to do.
Okay.
Don't you think we should have started that 6 months ago?
Well, yeah, but
We should have started
we
that
didn't.
much sooner, and here we are, we're down to, you presented to us in this, first December, but really, last week, and now within the end of the month, we have to make a choice on what we're doing, and I just feel like we're doing a disservice to the community. We're not giving them enough notice to voice their concerns about the changes we're making.
So if we were to, and taking your comment, I mean, hindsight is always 20/20, Ms. Karakas, we all know that. I mean, 6 months ago, had we not had everything that was hitting us at 6 months ago, almost a year ago now as well, we weren't, I don't think, thinking through a lot. But bottom line, if we did nothing, if we said, okay, we understand that there's a problem. We understand, sorry, Mr. Boyack, but we know Oak Leaf's really full, and guess what? It's gonna get fuller. Or more full, whatever. What's the percent that we would be at then? At this point, it's at 106%?
Eventually, we're gonna get to 116% with no space for expansion, and that is the key.
How long would that
There's
take?
no space for expansion. The portables, we call it hitching posts, are
Mhm.
all
Mhm.
full, and so there's no place for expansion. And then you're really taxing what you got going there. If you'd like to add something,
Yeah,
I'm sure you would.
if I may, I mean, we have made every planning room, resource room, storage room, we've closed computer labs, I mean, we have taken everything that has 4 walls and has enough space to fit kids and teachers, and we put teachers in there. If it had not been for the number of students this year going online, and the teachers that went with them, we would have had 4 to 5 teachers roaming in a pandemic right now. So, like, we've got to do, and I'm not here to make the decision, I'm just here to provide the information, but we are out of space. And I say that honestly, and I say that knowing you guys have a very difficult decision to make.
Mr. Fossa, how long would it take to reach the 116%? Would we be opening up in August of the next school year at 116?
No, it would probably take a year, maybe 2 to get there. But again, it depends on what if you have one development and another builder comes in, then you've just doubled production. And we've seen, if you look over what's going off of 315, people are coming here. They're running from the north, I hate to say that, they're running from the north, they're coming down here because it's more affordable and life's different here. So I'm surprised at the growth when I see it. I figure they tell me it's such, but next thing you know, there's many more
Popping
homes.
up everywhere.
Yeah, Ms. Clark can tell you that they're building, it's hard to get, the contractors.
There are
to do
sites
it.
that I go to, and we're told it'll take us a year to build this last year or 2. They're done in 3 months.
Yeah.
And St. John's, obviously, we know, deals with this every year.
Mhm.
And we're already having problems with our transportation not making enough. And now we have to give the juniors a chance of a choice, but yet we're dropping 2 buses at the same stop. So, we've got to take all that into consideration. And none of us know what this next year is gonna bring economy-wise. We don't even know if we're gonna be shut down for 100 days coming up. We don't know that. But anyway, we obviously have to do something, but I think we ought to take it a piece at a time and we know the growth, we know the majority of the growth is gonna be to the south between Green Cove and Lake Asbury. I mean, Whisper Creek is done, Fox Meadow, that's what I was trying to figure out, are we talking 64 lots or are we talking 3 times
I
that?
can find that out for you.
Pine Ridge, we know is growing. There's one that just opened. I mean, most of this is pretty much filled except for small pockets. But I know you had mentioned another road that would be coming through connecting, but
Yeah, and I actually have
until-
another slide where you'll see that.
yeah.
As it rolls through, it's an extension of Trail Ridge and it will end up tying into.
I mean, that'll be a great help
Well,
until
it'll be a
we,
help.
and
It'll
it's
be
probably
more
done on
easy.
rooftops built, is what they usually do.
Mhm.
So I don't know, we've gotta do something for Oakley Pie, and I just hate that, I was shocked when I found out that Fox Meadow years ago had been moved to Oakley, because most of those students, they went to junior high, Middleburg, they wanted to stay with their Middleburg friends. And now we're talking about moving them to Ridgeview. So,
The difference is at the time, the excitement was, oh, it's a brand new school. People like to go to a new school.
Yeah, but the
So that
good
was the
thing
one
is,
saving grace through it all.
but the good thing is, we've got all good schools, so it's not like it's the end of the world.
It's not like, exactly.
And I love old schools, so I don't
I
care.
have no problem with that. I'm with you there. So I think, you know, if, like you guys were saying, if you were to look at the Ridgeview option, that makes a lot of sense. That would help everybody out. It would help Ridgeview out by getting their enrollment up. It would help Oakleaf by taking some of the pressure off of them. And if you wanted to revisit the Orange Park option in the future, we could certainly do that. But again, I'm just a recommender. You guys are the deciding body.
Ms. Bullock, do you have anything you want to add to the conversation?
Well, just that I think that, you know, the Ridgeview option makes the most sense to me.
And hold off on the Argyle.
Yep. That's what I.
And we're agreeing so long as we don't affect juniors and seniors.
Yes.
Because Oakley definitely needs some relief there.
Yes.
And managing that, I mean, you're talking like a college. I mean, there's some colleges that aren't that big, and it becomes quite a management issue too, so.
Well, I think about it in terms of safety,
Yep.
and I don't know what fire code requires as far as capacity, but, you know, there's, like you said, when you're talking about managing the student body, that's a safety issue as well, making sure
About
you're,
student travel,
Yeah.
parking, everything. I mean, there's just so many factors there that need to be, so.
If you've taken that drive along the road that fronts Plantation Oaks and Oakleaf Junior in the high school,
Oh, yeah.
and you want to talk about gridlock in there,
Oh, yeah.
there it is. So that would even help to alleviate some of that.
That's exactly right.
Mr. Foster, how many portables do we currently have, or Mr. Boyak?
We've
at
got
Oakleaf
about
High School?
38 at that school.
At
38 we're using as classrooms, and we have 2 more that are functioning as bathrooms.
Right. And you just brought one online, and you had to go up and service it.
So that's less than what we had. Have we eliminated some? Didn't that school open up with like over 50?
I can't speak to before my time, but I think it's.
I think it opened up with over 50 portables.
I don't know, Mr. Bross, you may be able to speak to that.
No.
Do you remember?
No, it didn't have 50. It had
There are a lot.
about 10 or so less when I was there.
The junior high opened up with,
Oh,
because that was a K-8 when it opened. And all of the
that was.
K through 6 was in portables, so that opened up with, I'll bet, 50.
Yeah, because
sure.
everything that we've been
Call that a
told
school.
when asking about the space is
I don't know how
that
you
there's
can
no
call
more
that a
hookups,
school.
there's no more space to put any other portables, so.
so Ms. Karakas, to your point, would you, I know you think we need to give more notice, should we notice that we're not making this change to Argyle, but it's a potential? I mean, what do you?
I
what are
don't
your
think the
thoughts?
community even knows what we're doing, because, somebody laughed at that. I think you must be with the community.
I'm not the audience, if we're not at the audience question,
Go, are you from the Oakleaf area?
no, I am the one that emailed you, actually.
Well, I totally agree with what you said, that, you know, we're not giving enough time.
To your point, Ms. Gilhousen, I do believe that saying, hey, this is a possibility in the future, just to put it on parents' radar, would be exceptional. That would be very transparent, for you guys to say that. And then Ms. Bola, you said that, you know, hindsight's 20/20, but we knew at least 2 years ago, when the Patterson thing came up, that this was a possibility. And I agree with you all that a change needs to be made. These schools are over capacity, but this isn't something that popped up overnight.
No.
These neighborhoods were approved for development years and years and years ago, and we're just now decided to address it. And you said something about portables. I went to Montclair, Lakeside Junior High, and Orange Park High School. Most of my time when you were at Lakeside was spent in portables.
I wasn't your teacher, was I?
You were my homeroom teacher.
You can't mess up homework.
I really like you. You were great. Yes, and my daughter at Patterson has spent the last 3 years in portables. I've just always thought portables are a way of life. My husband came from the Panhandle. First time he drove by Orange Park High School, he was like, "Oh, that's your high school?" And I was like, I mean, it's fine. It's all we knew, and I wish that we didn't have so many portables, and I know that there are plans to build buildings at these schools, but you can't do it when you have to take away the 8 portables and you're overcrowded. So
Right.
I mean, and I do appreciate that you've taken into consideration the travel time coming down Blaming Boulevard. That is a nightmare. When I looked at that map, I thought, oh, those poor kids, those poor parents, trying to get to a sporting event or an awards ceremony coming from Argyle at rush hour. I mean, you've taken all that into consideration, and as a parent, I appreciate that. So, thank you. I'm sure I'll have more, but
Thank you for
So
being here.
if you were in our place right now, just out of curiosity, would you wait? Would you start small? Would you, just curious?
Well, looking at the numbers, like for Oakleaf, that area has just exploded.
It's terrible.
Clearly, something needs to be done there. You just said that every space you've got, and that's the same situation at Patterson right now. Every single space has been dedicated to learning. I think a definite change, if it's needed, if you don't have any more space for students, yes. But if you can put it off for a couple of years, give people some notice. And don't do this for next school year. Because I watched the end of the meeting after I emailed you, and you did say that open enrollment would be pushed back about a month or so to give people that chance. But like the classical school or a private school, if someone wants to make that choice, they don't have that choice anymore. So just give parents as much notice as possible. We appreciate that. Taking it out of the paper probably isn't going to help. I know you have to do that, but put it on Facebook, send a letter home, have the school publish it, do a robocall. That's the only way that people know about things. So.
And it can't wait for 2 years. And you had said a couple of years, and I'm sitting here going, maybe not this coming
Right,
school
but the
year,
next school
but
year,
the
just
next
say,
school year,
yes,
exactly,
for 20,
yeah.
what will that be,
21, it would be
22,
21,
23?
22. No,
Okay.
it would be
22,
22,
22,
23.
23. So yes, give
22,
people
23.
a year in advance so they can go, okay, well maybe I don't want to go to Ridgeview or Orange Park. What are my other options? So.
And and herein lies the problem. In looking at the Fox Meadow neighborhood, I keep referring back to that, but that's in my district, and they are very good about having quarterly meetings and inviting the school board, they invite the sheriff's office, they invite the Board of County Commissioners, and we go and we just, give a little brief update, maybe. Most of the time it's questions. Tell me why. Why are you doing this? And 9 times out of 10, it's why can't my child go back to Middleburg? I went to Middleburg, I grew up in this neighborhood, this is what, and it's like, we don't have the space.
Right.
We simply don't have the room to accommodate for that. And I'm sitting here thinking, yes, this is a good option. The option 1 is a good option, and I know that that neighborhood
It's going to be
will
hard
be
sell.
saying, I don't want to go to Ridgeview. I want to go to Middleburg. If you're going to make a change, do it this way. And that's not necessarily an option for us at this point.
But
So,
is it not possible to bump up the cafeteria expansion if it's already slated within the next 5 years anyway?
well, and who knows some of these people, I'm going with, we need some more input from the community.
We really do.
We do need more input from the community for us
Thank you
to
for
make
being here.
yeah, there's a point where we have to say, okay, enough is enough. We've not made any changes in anything for as long as I can remember. It's been years. And it probably was back when we opened Oakleaf High. How long has Oakleaf High been open now?
2010.
So 10 years.
11 years.
So it's been 10 years probably since we did any changes.
To the high school. Now,
To-
remember, we did do the junior
Discovery
and-
Oaks.
we
Discovery
did.
Oaks. But
And
that,
we also did Argyle Elementary and the middle school, all of that. It was around that same time, right, Mr. Fossa?
When we did
We
when
did
we
that
opened
before.
Discovery Oaks,
Right.
the only change we did was we just sent the 6th grades back to
Right.
that's
their
it.
schools.
But it was like a year or two before that when we changed the middle school to a junior high.
But and then we sent
We did that right around the same time.
was at
I'm
the
sorry,
same
I don't have that timeline in front of me, but
Right.
it
It
was
was-
all around the same time, because I can remember going over there and talking with Miss Kendrick, and her telling me that parents with tears in their eyes, that they got to keep their kids in the elementary school an extra year instead of
Right.
sending them off to the big bad junior
Well,
high.
we did have a
So
lot
it was
of
around the same time.
discussion about the neighborhoods. I remember, and I can't remember which school it was, but one neighborhood across the street was now being put on a bus and bussed all the way around. And
Well, that was
That
the
was-
whole impetus for Discovery Oaks,
That
because
was
you're right, you
before
can look at
Discovery Oaks.
That was
plantation.
before that, that's
And they
right.
were going to be bused from Oak Leaf,
All the way
Plantation
over to
Oaks
Argyle,
to Argyle, and that was the big
when you
brouhaha.
can
Yeah.
see the school in front of you, and you're gonna
Exactly,
get on a bus and go
exactly,
around.
and that
So really,
ended up not happening.
That's about all the redistricting that we've done
it.
in
And that
the
wasn't
10
even
years that I've been
redistricted,
on
was it?
board.
Yeah.
So, and to the point of Ms. Gillen, if we rushed up the cafeteria space, guess what you gotta do? You gotta redistrict still to have people go there, so your time, I mean, I've brought this before the board before, many times, as far as the growth need, so it's nothing that I'm springing on you.
Yeah.
Jim Connell's looked at these before and gone for them, so it's something that was needed.
Can we get him
The
back
young
as a
lady brought up
consultant?
the point too, when we were looking
Jim
at
Connell.
Patterson, we were certainly
Had to do
talking
this.
about it back in 2 years ago.
Mhm.
So it's certainly something
Well, we
that's
were,
there.
and that's when we went to Patterson.
Yeah, that was a great,
Yep.
like, place to get community feedback, I thought. So if you could go into other schools and
Well,
say, here's what we're
that's-
thinking and here's why,
Right.
that turned people out. They were like, you're gonna do something about my school, I'm gonna do something about it.
And that's exactly what our plan is.
Okay.
Because
Don't
we're
you
not
feel-
doing this without the community input. This is something that we will have to get
Right,
some
and like,
community
I look at
input.
what
Don't you
St.
feel
John's
that-
does, they come up with an idea, they bring it to the community, they listen to what the community
Mhm.
has, and if they can meet their concerns, they do. But if they can't,
There
they
has to be
try
a
to do
point
as
where we
best they
have
can,
to
there's
say
gotta be some
it's
type
full.
of a
We
middle
have to
ground.
But do they do that before taking action? I mean, you're asking us to take action on the
They
26th of this month.
know what they're going to do, and they bring it to the community, they listen to what the community says, and they see if it's feasible for what the community wants, what the community
Yeah.
wants. If
I
it's
don't know.
feasible, they make a change, if they don't, they go forward with it. I've even talked to Orlando, they just do it every year,
Mhm.
just to do it. They constantly redistrict down in the Orlando area,
Yeah,
and you'll
they
see
have
it in
so
the
many more
paper, it
kids than we
happens every
do.
year.
That's not apples and apples, that's completely different. I just,
So if I could, there's no doubt that boundary realignment is never good, because anytime you move any student, even one student, they're attached to a parent that feels strongly. And it's the same as moving a teacher in the beginning of the year. That child becomes attached to that teacher, and then when you go ahead and you move the teacher, or the child from the teacher, it becomes a big deal. So there's no doubt, no matter what we do,
Change.
it's going to be, and I'll just tell you, from the moment of the election, this has been an issue, November, December, I brought forward a plan to say, this is a potential issue, board, we need to deal with this. And so, to me, it's like, okay, here are the options. We could choose to do nothing. I'll support whatever decision there is relative to that, but we feel incumbent about having this discussion now. We wanted to have this discussion in December, literally 1 month after taking office, we're bringing this issue forward. So we ought to go through the discussion at least and make the decision about what to do at the end of the discussion. And if the decision is to wait, then I'm in total support of waiting, if that's what the board feels like is best for the community. It does put strain on our schools, particularly Oak Leaf High School, and that's why Mr. Boyak's here. And we have to weigh all of that to come with a final direction, and that's kind of the viewpoint and the reason why we're here, and the reason why we started this and the timing of all of this. And I think you're right, it's been a good 10 years, other than Doe, that we've tackled some of these issues.
Clarification. On the 26th, we're going to vote on a recommendation. That
that's
doesn't
right.
mean that's.
We're
the-
taking action.
We
That
are
means we're
taking action, you're right, but that's not the final vote.
The final vote would be in
So in between the 26th and our final vote, which would be March 4th, if I'm not mistaken?
whatever that first.
Whatever that first date is. Um,
So
That
if,
could change.
if we
could-
change anything, it will be of substance, which means it has to be
So
re-advertised.
28 days.
Which pushes everything back
Pushes
as far as your
everything
allocations and all of that.
You're correct.
Which is why this
Well,
sense of urgency is upon us now.
no, but the March 4th decision, the March 4th vote, if I'm not mistaken, is done in a timely manner so that it does not, or it can, affect the allocations so that we can put more allocations. Just use this as an example. We can take allocations from Oak Leaf and apply them to Ridgeview in that respect. is what
Correct.
I'm understanding. Those allocations will not have been made at that point. So if we have, let's say we make, I'll just use option 1, and I'm talking about the attendance boundary change for Oakleaf and Ridgeview High Schools only. If we make that recommendation, and if that is brought to us on the 26th, and we say, yes, this is something that we are interested in doing, we make the allocation vote at that point. But in the interim, we have 362 families come to us and say, no, we want to stay at Oakleaf, and this is why, and my child's in the band, and my, whatever. I'm in the ROTC, and I'm doing this, and they're doing that. And we as a whole determine that, okay, this has to be put on the books for a year. Then we could make the determination at that point and vote it down, if that happens. We may be able to also at that point say, we have to make this change. We have to make this change. And as there may not be 362 families that come to us, there may be 25 families that come to us and say, I know there are going to be some families in here that are going to say, good, because I don't want to go to an overcrowded high school. I don't feel safe sending my child to an overcrowded high school. So there are lots of different ways that they're going to see it, but that could be voted down, and in the process, we're doing this to make certain that the allocations are appropriate at that point. Is that correct?
That you're both correct, Ms. Karakis and Ms. Bowler, you're both correct. The purpose of the first Thursday March vote would be so that we could readjust allocations and make sure that the allocations are correct. It is true, if you move 300 and something students from Oakleaf High School to Ridgeview High School, you would have less teachers at Oakleaf, more teachers at Ridgeview, whatever that number works out to be, and that's the reason for the timeline.
Right.
And so I kind of understand Ms. Karakis' perspective on the issue also. You are correct, the board could vote down the recommendation at the March meeting. I mean, the purpose to having the meetings, the individual meetings, the public meetings, this meeting, and any future meeting, is to try to gain consensus of the board to know what direction to move forward in. For example, when you talk about community involvement and we need to go out to the community, we don't know at this point what communities to go to until you give direction today to say, you need to go out and talk to these folks that are currently in the Ridgeview community. But we wouldn't know that until today, where you guys said, hey, this is the direction we want you to go in, to then engage that community. And so you're right. I think you're both right in your analysis of the situation. But I think my responsibility is to bring this forward to you and to say, this is the situation that we're in. These are potential ways to deal with this, and what direction would you like us to go? And that's why
Well, when we did Discovery Oaks Elementary, and we did the Argyle, we had a meeting at Argyle Elementary. You were there that night. You were working at a popcorn stand or ice cream or something. And we were all there for that, and we had not decided on any lines. We put all the options up there. The room was packed with people, and the community got to see the choices before the board took any action. This is backwards. We are taking action before we're even giving the community the option to see what's out there, hear their feedback, hear their issues. And I kind of feel like we're doing it backwards. I feel like we should be out there to the community, go to each one of these areas that you're talking about. And this is what we're looking at, and this is what is
I
potential
totally appreciate
coming
what
down
you're
the
saying.
road.
Yeah, I mean, but it's gonna be, the folks that are behind, they're not gonna pay attention, it doesn't affect them. So next year, when the next year rolls along, they're gonna say, oh, you guys are bringing this on for me now? So
You
it's
talk
gonna
about
be-
rezoning anybody's neighborhood, they're paying attention.
I totally
Can I
get it.
give a perspective as a parent, like, if I know that, not this school year, but the next school year, that my kid's school's gonna change, I'm probably gonna go ahead and enroll them in the new school. If I have a 4-year-old that's in DPK and she's gonna start kindergarten, but I know that when she starts first grade, she's gonna go to a different school, I'm gonna go ahead and put her in the other school. Same as if you have an 8th grader. They're not gonna wanna start high school at Oakleaf and then go to Ridgeview. They're gonna wanna go ahead and go to Ridgeview. They wanna, you don't wanna, that's the whole purpose, we don't want
You
all
want
this change for our
consistency.
kids. And kids are resilient, and we don't give them enough credit, but, just a little bit of notice, so people can make an informed decision, so they're not changing schools.
And the other thing is that, I don't know, I understand that the vote was taken after that meeting, but there was a plan.
Oh, there were 4 plans. We had,
It was,
like, packets of stuff, this option, this option, this option, maps of everything, the number of kids. It was so fine-tuned that you could practically see the houses in the pictures.
but,
There were many plans to choose from, maybe 4, I would say maybe 3 or 4.
and I recall one neighborhood coming to, one big neighborhood, coming to Argyle. That's my recollection of that. So the plan, the fact that there were plans, there are plans here.
Mhm.
And we could, if we wanted to, go to Argyle and start all of that, but I would like to see us start small. And start with these communities. And go out to them, yes, and talk to them and say, hey, give us feedback. What are you thinking? Right now, we're talking about a high school that is way overcrowded.
I lived in Fleming Island, and when they opened Fleming Island, they said, hey, your kid's going to Clay. He's going to Clay, next year he's going to Fleming Island. Okay. And he went off to Fleming Island. And we had the option to take him to Clay, but I had to drive him myself. So I said, Robbie, guess what? You're going to be going to Fleming Island High School. And he did. And that's what he did. So, yep, I remember that. So I will write an item if you want me to.
So,
that will-
and this is not, we don't vote at workshops.
Right.
We basically just provide you with guidance. And I'll go out on a limb and say what I'm hearing is that we would like input from the community, number 1.
Mhm.
But at this point, we're looking at option 1, which is the boundary change from Oakleaf to Ridgeview High School.
Is that what everybody's in agreement on?
And that's, I'm throwing that out as a question. And I want to go around person by person, please. Ms. Bullock,
That's what I agree with.
Ms. Gilhousen,
Same.
Ms. Clark,
Not sure.
okay?
Only because I don't know if it's possible, but I would like to take maybe pieces, say Fox Meadow, this is just an example, I'm not saying it's my preference or anything. But you could leave the others going to Ridgeview, but I'm looking at the transportation and Pine Ridge, Two Creeks, Whisper Creek, that's all kind of, well, Whisper Creek isn't, all in the same route. But Fox Meadow takes a different route down Old Jennings, and you're right there at Linda Lakes. So I assume Linda Lakes is going to
Linda Lakes is
Middleburg?
Linda Lakes is in Middleburg.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if we can make it a little bit, tweak it just a little bit to where it's more practical based on,
Well, I've shown this to the transportation department, and Daryl's here now, so
Daryl's here.
we'd like to hear from him on that. I mean,
Yeah.
because certainly that's outside of my wheelhouse.
so I don't know if,
Where's Linda Lakes again? You were pointing
Right
it
across
out.
Linda
from
Lakes
Fox Meadow.
is in this area.
It's in the Middleburg.
Over here, somewhere, I think that's it right there.
Is that on,
Corner of Long Bay
Old
and Old
Jennings.
Jennings.
This is
Oh, Long
Bay
Bay.
right here, and this is Old Jennings.
and Long Bay goes directly to Middleburg High.
Right.
Yeah.
So here's an example of what Ms. Clark just said. If we had just taken option 1 and give direction and go forward and on the 26th vote on it, and then after the community comes back and gives input, and we change to what Ms. Clark just said and maybe take part of option 1 out and do only half of it, at that point, Mrs. Bola, we have to re-advertise.
Right, yes.
Another 30 days, so.
But then, at that point, if we're going to re-advertise and create all of that problem, then we may also vote against changing it at all, and saying, you know what? We need to wait till next year and do this right, and do
which is
this
what we probably
with
need to
other,
do.
and obviously include even other neighborhoods,
is Darryl here?
Yeah,
right
Oh,
behind you.
here he is.
so I wanted to, what was the question exactly? It was finding
Well,
out
I
about-
just didn't know if we could, I don't want to do Biden anymore. Didn't know if we could fine tune it, just, it may not be possible at all, but based on the bus routes, Fox Meadow is right across from Linda Lakes.
Right,
And these other neighborhoods are another route. maybe we should be tweaking our numbers a little bit and looking at the potential growth coming in still in areas close by and see, you know, are we gonna be able to send them to Middleburg? Can we send some of them to Ridgeview instead of lumping everything, you know, either one or the other, so.
Well, we can look at that. I mean, I know there is something behind Fox Meadow further down there, some development started, something.
Yeah, nothing can go past Fox Meadow, unless you're talking about behind the property. Off of Old Jennings.
It's a different little area out there, but it is a lot of growth out there. So
Yeah.
we can look at how we can tweak it, and, I mean, there's a lot of students out that way.
Yeah, because everything's going to the south, right in that area
Yep.
with Long Bay, and
Yeah.
so I would just hate to make a change and put them to Ridgeview when we find out 2 years from now, you know, we probably should have taken them to Middleburg or another. I just would want to look at it a little bit more, and since I feel, you know, this is all new to me too, not because I'm new, but because it's a new item, and I think we are in the planning stage to where we can take it to the public and hopefully have a conversation and find out what's at least some ideas.
Mr.
But I think
Foster, do you have any idea what the growth would be that Ms. Clark's talking about?
So, I mean, right now, this is all zoned for Middlebury High School. So these guys are, it's Lynn Lakes, and it's the western side of Azalea Ridge, and all these things, but they're all already going to Middlebury.
So how many additional homes will be going up over the next year or two? Do you have any idea?
Azalea Ridge is still building out.
Yeah. But they must have been permitted for, what, 300, 150, 80, whatever the number?
I could not give you that information right now because it's not what I've been looking at. So what I've been looking at is the area that's affecting Oakleaf High School. That's been my number.
Right.
So Oakleaf has been where I've been trying to zero in on. You know, and again, when the state was looking at this, I do want to let you know that the state said that's the way we want to go. To the point that they want me to present this to the FEFA board. So when the FEFA conference is out, they want me to present this to them, to show other districts how to do it, just to let you know. So in this case here, we looked at the biggest need, which was certainly Oakleaf High School, and I focused on that. I didn't focus on Middleburg, because right now they're in that area, none right now. There are some neighborhoods that are going in there, for sure. But we have some schools that are low, like even Orange Park High School and Ridgeview. So I'm trying to help a couple of other schools out to bring their numbers up as well. And I totally get it. I mean, it's a very emotional issue for a lot of folks, especially with high school. You know, middle school is just 2 years. Elementary is a big issue, as we saw when we looked at Patterson. And so we're giving them the option, if you're already halfway through, then you get to continue on, like we did with Clay High and with Fleming Island. I just want to be able to help out, you know, Matt over here, and I want to be able to help out the school facilities. Like I said, I'm the recommender. I said, this is what I look, this is what I see. You guys have the hard decision, and I get it. You're getting the phone calls and the emails, and every now and then I get a call from folks, and I try to help them out as best I can. But that's the way that, you know, we're trying to go forward.
And Old Jennings is obviously a border. I mean, that's.
Well, you have to have a border, and
That's
as you said that, we should be
that's a
looking
line.
at, like, natural bodies of water. And which I'm gonna show you when we roll into the middle school piece that we neglected that. And so we look at roads like 17, or Old Jennings, or, you know, 23. You're not gonna get a student to walk across those to get to that school. So that's what you look at. And in planning, that's planning 101. You're always looking for something there to help you give a boundary, whether it's a railroad track or whatever. So that's my question to you guys. Where do you want me to go? I can certainly write up an item that would say, number one, or not one, but the Ridgeview item, and then it goes before the board, and then you make a decision from there. Or we can, I'm just looking for your direction, that's all.
I definitely feel we cannot do anything because Oakleaf is just, I mean, you get to a point when you don't have no more space and that's where they're at. And I you know, to think we can sit by and do nothing is not correct. We need to move forward with
And
that.
I think if you do wait a year to the 22-23 school year, you're still gonna grandfather
That's
in
right.
the 11th and 12th graders. So then you're
adding-
basically
Pushing.
have another, 2 years before this is fully in place. And we would definitely need to talk with Mr. Broski and Miss Ellis and Mr. Fossa about what we would do in the meantime if that would,
That's exactly right, I just think.
I just don't. But again,
It's not easy. And please don't think that I look at this willy-nilly. I mean, I pore over this. And Bryce will tell you, when burning the midnight oil, I'm still at it, trying to make sure to see if this works the best way for it to work. Not just any way, the best way. I'm not, again, it looks like these neighborhoods connect, but they don't. You can't go from here to here without going all the way down to Old Jennings and then coming back and through. So it's, you know, if they put that one road, if they do connect Long Bay, which they don't want to do, yeah, that would be the case, but not now.
I think really, if I'm understanding Ms. Clark correctly, and kind of where I was coming from and asking about the cafeteria expansion at Middleburg, I tend to like the idea better of sending those kids, what would that be, west of Challenger?
So, right, here's Challenger here.
Right,
Right, so Ms. Wallace said that these guys used to go to Middleburg,
correct.
and that was the reach that was put in
Right.
when they had been put in Oakley High
Oakley.
School, because they needed to populate it, so they
Right.
reached down and grabbed all these kids.
So to Ms. Clark and Ms. Bola's point, what if Area 26 there, that's east of Challenger, we worked on redistricting to Ridgeview?
That already is Ridgeview.
65 kids.
No,
now.
that
Oh.
Area 26, see, that's what, part of what we're doing.
Yeah, it's-
Oh, I see what
That's
you're
part of
saying,
the change.
yes,
So
yeah.
if you do part of that change and then push up the timeline for the Middleburg High School cafeteria, and the following year, you can move those kids to Middleburg.
What, do you know what year off the top of your head Middleburg cafeteria was scheduled for?
They're working on the design right now, so we were looking at doing it next year.
So that would
The
mean
problem
it
is with that, I mean, we're still looking at 300 kids to go to Middleburg.
Right.
Yeah,
And
see,
then
it's-
we're gonna be looking at shifting the boundary for Middleburg to Clay High, and I mean,
and
it's
Ridgeview
still,
has the space.
But Middleburg would too, because once the cafeteria is finished, it'll be 71% capacity. Correct?
that's with all the portables.
Right.
Where that
So-
goes before. There's a lot of.
Does Ridgeview not have portables?
Ridgeview has.
They have
portables.
portables.
We all
do.
do.
Every
So
Yes.
that's all I'm asking, is it?
Right, but I can only take one at a time. and that's
No,
what
I
I'm trying to
realize
do.
that, but I guess what I'm saying is it not comparable to move them to Middleburg as to move them to Ridgeview?
At my current parameters, it's not,
Okay.
because we don't have the space. I can do it to Ridgeview because they have the space
They
in
have
the
the room.
cafeteria. They have a new cafeteria.
Middleburg has their lunches all over the place.
Right.
Even right now, they're all in the hallways and outside, they have.
I know,
certain
I've been,
lines.
but I'm thinking once the cafeteria is built, if it's built next year, and we're talking the 21-22 school year, correct?
Yes, it would be 22.
So then
would be
22,
available.
23, you'd have your large cafeteria.
But we're still not solving the Oakley High
That's
School
right.
problem by doing that. I agree with you that it makes sense that neighborhood would go back to where they used to be, which would probably be more appealing than
To
sending
the
them to a
parents,
third high
but
school.
those children don't remember it.
That's,
Yeah, the families
that's
do
it,
that.
yeah. If anything, it's gonna be, yeah.
The parents,
I mean,
yeah.
Pine Ridge too.
And we're here for the kids, sorry, so I hate to say that, but that's what we're here for. So, the
Okay,
direction,
we're back to absolutely nothing.
Well,
All
we
right,
have
I
to
think
do
we all
something.
agree that Oakleaf needs some relief.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need more space.
I can
And the
live
only
with
way we
option
can
one.
provide you with more space is to move some of the students. So you are
I can
still
live
in
with
favor of
option
option one?
Although,
Option one.
truthfully, I would rather postpone everything
Correct.
until the following year, but I understand Oakleaf High School has an immediate need.
Correct. And we
So
need
I
to address that
can
right now.
agree to that.
So the 362 kids, is that just freshmen and sophomores? Or is the 362, does that include, I just wanna know actual numbers, how many are we
Right.
gonna affect? Because we're
It's-
not gonna touch juniors and
right,
seniors.
we're not gonna touch juniors and seniors, so you can take a few of them out of there, because
Okay.
we have to look to see how that breaks out.
Okay, so it's gonna be less than 362, okay.
And then that brings it to
Which
92%
we
for
knew
Oakleaf.
anyways, because we would
84.
grandfather those
Right.
students in there.
Right. And so, as far as notifying families or having community meetings, what would the board prefer to see as far as, I mean, I liked what was it, Russell Road, I remember last year, the year before, we sent some kids from was it Rideout?
Before me,
It was before you.
yeah.
Do you guys remember that?
Yes, we did, you're right.
We sent some kids from Rideout to Lake Asbury, or Lake Asbury to Rideout.
Well, we sent the Lake Asbury kids to Rideout. This was, Bryce, was this last year or the year before? We
It was
sent
a handful of kids.
Lake
It
Asbury
didn't affect a
kids
lot.
to, it was a domino effect, because we
Right.
took some Bennett kids to
Right.
Lake Asbury kids to Rideout, and then I think somewhere, did we move some Rideout over to Coppergate?
I'm not sure,
It was
but
kind of a domino effect.
the point that I was trying to make was that when we did that, we notified the families in a letter.
Right.
So I
Yes.
guess, you know, we're getting feedback from community members that want notification.
Absolutely.
What do you all feel is the best?
Oh, letter home, most definitely, to all of these 362 students or whatever students. And I think we should include all and indicate that the option is available for juniors and seniors. There may be some juniors that don't necessarily, they don't have any
They may
connection.
wanna say, yeah.
And they may say, yeah, you know what, I want to go to Ridgeview because it's smaller.
And
They
I
may have
think,
some Ridgeview y'all want there.
and in the letter home, an opportunity to be heard, I think would be.
Absolutely.
Oakley?
And I think all of our names need to be on it for people who want to contact us so that we can hear from them. But also the option of meeting them as well.
Right.
And you had talked about setting up meetings so that we could talk to the public directly.
So then a town hall.
Mm-hmm.
And at Oakley, of course, we want the principal there.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we did it when we did the Argyle one. All 5 board members were there. You know, Kevin and his crew across the front.
Right, that's what we did at Oakley Junior.
Right.
We all sat out there and then the community.
Right.
That was great, that worked out super.
Yes.
So what would the time
The
frame?
goal was you were there doing Facebook Live and we had some questions and it was good.
When would that letter go out to the families? Any clue?
You tell me when, we will get a draft.
I
That's
mean-
what I'm
As
saying, I think
possible.
we need to
Absolutely,
notify the
as soon as
families,
possible.
but I
As-
think before we can notify the families, we need a date and time certain of when they can come to a town hall. So the
Right.
notification is, this is the proposed plan, maybe even include the district boundary map, so they can see exactly what's happening.
And this certainly needs to be up, you know, back up.
And
And we
then-
can't call it student membership.
And
Well, it's
I-
attendance boundary. I mean,
Frankly,
that's,
I think that we could have this town hall meeting before our next workshop or meeting on the 26th.
That would be good. I agree with you. And
We
then
good
the
with that?
community
Karen,
is
do you see
aware
anything
and
that-
involved in our decision. And then if we need to change anything, we're changing it before we vote on it.
Correct.
So, and to Ms. Clark's point, if there's additional information on that new growth that she needs,
Mhm.
that gives Mr. Foster time to get it to all of us.
21st is Bannerman's
Oh,
graduation.
never mind. Are we looking at calendars?
Mhm.
Well, I was just thinking, because Monday, the 18th, we are off for Martin Luther King, and then Tuesday could potentially work, but that is our virtual planning day.
Mhm.
Too soon for parents.
Yeah,
That's
I was
too
like,
soon, yeah.
I don't know,
Well, and
because
for
it's
us
a
to
day
get the
off.
letter out, it wouldn't get out in time for that, so I'm looking at the following week. But we're talking about a meeting to okay
Where are we on to?
the zoning
That's not much time.
revision on the
What about the
26th.
22nd? Could we do it on the 22nd, because it's a Friday, and there's usually, I mean, I don't think there's a lot usually scheduled for Friday evenings, so what
There's
if
no
we did
football yet, is there? What sports are going on right now?
You
Band?
guys give me a date and we will make it work.
I'm available any night.
I
Yeah.
like Fridays for parents because you don't have school the next morning, they don't have work the next morning, most families don't.
Mhm.
I think that would be probably when families would be most able to attend.
Is Friday the 22nd open for you guys? It's open for me. I'm good. No, we could make it, 6:30, so not too early, because we do want people to be able to get home from work for that,
I
but
would
not too
even
late.
say, 7,
7 works.
just to give families a chance to get home and eat dinner and then come.
And fight Blanding Boulevard.
Right.
Okay, and it'll to be at
Mr.
Oakleaf High
Foss, are you
School?
available Friday night, the 22nd, or do you have a hot date
I
set up?
am at the will of the board, so if you want me there, I'm there.
So are we going to do this at Ridgeview High School or Oakleaf High School?
You know what, it probably should be, well, no, because they're currently going to Oakleaf High School, we should do it at Oakleaf High School.
I agree.
Yeah.
They have a larger cafeteria.
And then we could reach out to Becky Murphy to have
I'm sure she would be there.
And she should be, yeah, that's a good idea.
I like that. I like that.
Tell her to bring
22nd
some
at
food from the
7
culinary
22nd,
program.
Oakleaf High.
That'll entice everyone.
So practice,
She did
give us
that,
practice for
culinary.
graduation.
Ooh, good.
That's a great idea.
She only has to bring cookies.
Showcase the programs they have.
Programs.
That's
Ooh,
what they're talking about, yeah.
Remember when they
you know
we
that she'll have
spotlighted their
that set
culinary
up,
and they
you
brought all
know
their
it.
food to the board meeting? All right, so.
Okay, so we're good with option one, just to clarify everything. Option one, we would like a letter to go out to all parents affected, whether they are freshmen, sophomore, junior, seniors. And we may want to include 8th grade, that we know would be in that group, because they're the ones who are going to be the first
Definitely 8th
grouped
grade.
over.
I don't
okay?
know that we need to notify juniors and seniors because they're not affected.
Well, they
Well,
are
some
if they
might
wanna
wanna
go
go.
to.
They may
If
want
they
to
want
decide to want to go
to,
to.
I mean, and if there aren't that
Ridgeview.
many, what different, I mean, let's just get them all if we can.
But
And definitely 8th grade.
Definitely 8th grade as well.
And
yeah.
a letter that goes out, and also I'll be, all of the
Social media.
social media stuff and online and whatever. Yes, Nancy.
If you were doing the letters to the juniors and seniors, I would make sure the parents understand that it's
Oh,
not
yes.
required.
Yes, I mean, in the whole body of the letter, it would obviously, I'm
Otherwise,
hoping,
you're
that
gonna
it
get
would say
calls freaking
something
out.
to the effect of that. This is a change that we're making for the 21-22 school year, that it would only include freshmen, 8th grade, freshmen, sophomores, those, and unless the juniors and seniors are interested in making that transition, and
You don't have to mail to seniors because they're
They'll be gone.
they're gone.
They're
Probably
gone.
gone.
Oh,
So
yeah,
really,
good
you're
point,
8,
good point,
9,
yeah,
10.
yeah.
And let's call it what it is.
Is it
Boundary
junior,
realignment
seniors, or-
in the letter.
Just the
To
juniors.
make sure we don't.
Sophomores, juniors.
Juniors can
Call
only
it,
become seniors.
Well, I'm asking, okay.
It's rising sophomores.
Sophomores,
Rising.
sophomores are the ones, okay.
Rising sophomore, so
Got
current,
it.
current freshman, current 8th grade is who is
Got it.
mandatory effective.
Okay, is that good, Mr. Fosse? You have our direction.
Yes, ma'am.
All right,
8 through 11, that's what we're sending it to?
8 through 11, yep. Mhm.
So I'm gonna roll into the junior high piece.
There we go.
This isn't so
Oh,
urgent.
that was so much fun.
So it was fun. This is a great learning experience, and I appreciate everybody's time, and because I realize time is valuable.
Mhm.
So we're gonna roll into the junior high piece, which isn't as urgent, but it's definitely necessary. I do wanna show you that if we're looking at the attendance boundaries for the junior highs, you can see the majority of this big area in the middle where Lake Asbury is Lake Asbury Junior High. So, and that is my focus for today, because Lake Asbury Junior High is the epicenter of all the development in the area, and they need a lifeline. So if we're looking at the different schools and the percent capacities, we're looking through here, we say, well, look at Lake Asbury is only at 83%, big deal. But that's sort of not a real number, because they have a large ESC population there. And they're using rooms that should have 25 kids
That
in
only
there
have a
for
few.
just 5. So while it looks like they have all the space, they really don't. So when we talk to the state, we're looking at making there's a change, we can call it an ESC zone. So we're looking at trying to reclassify some of those things so it can be a permanent number. But this was something that she said, great, put that factor in there so you can see that they're really at about 88% as far as their capacity goes. All right, so I'm gonna roll from here. And I'll kind of shift up the look, because when we, again, looking at planning 101, they always want you to look at they want you to look at natural things. And you can see we have a nice black creek going right through here, which would have been a great boundary, but we skipped right over that and went up to 220. Again, that was part of that grab that we did when we opened Lake Asbury. We needed to fill Lake Asbury. So we took it all the way up to 220. These areas used to go to Lakeside anyways, back when they were there, back when the football team was big.
Mr. Foster, tell me again why we're not addressing Wilkinson at 97%?
There's not a lot of growth that's going into the Wilkinson area at this time. It's pretty stable.
So it's okay at
And
97?
97 is kind of where you want to be. I mean, you start looking at you when you go below 95, why aren't you filling your schools up, you know? And that's why we're there. So what I've done here is I've kind of overlaid these developments, and I got a really cool picture that I want to show you. That's the most recent overhead that actually you can see where the dirt's being moved around and everything. This green line represents the First Coast Expressway, just for a little wayfinding here. This red line is Russell Road, this is Sand Ridge Road, and right over here is Shadow Lawn, and this dotted line, you can see, lines up perfectly with where the interchange is going to be. And the Reinhold organization is building that road. So that is scary to me because they do have their own development right there, which is Reinhold North.
Along
Which
with
tells
everything
me
else out
there's
there.
going to be stuff on either side of here and then eventually over here as well. I tried to put the build-out years in here, but remember, doesn't mean 7 years, it means, well, they're building up to 7 years from there. So I just wanted to show you that. Lake Asbury's capacity is 1334. Right now, they got 1107 attending. I'm looking at around 360 junior high students coming in. With the ESC factor, that's 88%. If we do nothing, they're going to grow. And with the ESC factor, yikes, big number here. Great school, great leadership over there. It's a great campus. And again, this isn't happening tomorrow, but it's something that we can do to set them up for success. And I think that's super important.
So you're saying in years, within years, when would that status quo at 113% end up at 7 years?
So this is us doing nothing. So this
Right.
is the number. So we did nothing throughout this whole time frame in here. It eventually will get to there. But
But,
again, it's not at 7 years, boom. I mean, we're working into it. So as you can divide it in, again, they're building about 70 per year. And if I've got one builder, there's 70. But if there's two builders, 140. And if there's three builders, you know, it's going on and on. And that's what happens in a lot of these places.
well, that's just it. If this growth continues as it is, as Ms. Clark said, you see the foundations being laid and all of a sudden there's an entire
Right.
subdivision there. And that's been happening all over Clay County. So, I'm sorry, keep
No.
going, keep
So
talking.
sneak peek for the next slide is, I kind of want to take north of the Black Creek and point that to Lakeside Junior.
So do you feel there's a sense of urgency where this has to be addressed right now, or is this something that could wait until the following school year?
They're a 2-year school, you're right. I mean, the sooner the better, I think, for us to get them rolling. But we're not in the same boat that we were with Mr. Boyd in Oakland High School. So here's the latest overlay, and you can see Cross Creek, all these roads coming in from here, scaring me to death. And Village Park up in here is growing. All the dirt being moved in here, all this dirt being moved in here. This whole section here, you see they've got the dirt roads all ready to go. Put houses there. I do have a call into Mr. Egan to find out when they're going to start Ridgeview North. And if you go along 209, you can see there's already signs up for these guys here. So this is, ground truth. I want to show that this is definitely, it's coming. And it's a lot of houses. It's a good deal to come to Clay County. It's a good deal to come here.
Do we have another junior high on in our 10-year plan out in that area?
There's not. So
Probably gonna need
the
one.
next junior high that we're actually looking at is the K-8s that are down in that area there. Okay, so here is the attendance boundary suggested change, and we're looking at these, again, these numbers are for me, these area numbers. I can show you over here where they are. Here's 78, this is 83 and 84, 71, 72, and 73. Here's the area, Wedgefield, Orange Park South, Breckenridge, Madison Common and the Greenwood Estates. And you're wondering why I stopped right here? Because this is where the train tracks come through here.
Yes.
You can see it through there, and that's one of those boundaries. And Daryl will tell you that the buses can't turn right onto the train tracks or something like that. So that's one of the reasons we stopped it at that particular spot.
Did those developments used to be lakeside?
Yes, that's what he said.
They sure did.
Yeah. And you're looking at Orange Park South,
I know.
which just, to me, doesn't make sense to go to Lake
Lake
Asbury. It makes
Asbury.
sense to go to
Where they
Lake,
get
yeah.
to lakeside.
Mhm.
So,
And
okay.
even the Greenwood Estates in here.
Oh, yeah,
You're
yes,
right behind Doctor's,
yes.
Little shout out, that's a nice little neighborhood in there that needs a little bit of help.
Mhm.
And it's, they go to Doctor's Inlet for the school, and if you've seen them walk in the backside of it there,
Right.
so. And we've been able to get them a plan for building a sidewalk in there for the safe routes to school. And so the county's been really helpful in putting that package together, so we're getting some more safe routes
Well,
from that neighborhood as well.
and is the 83, 84 the new subdivision that's going in next to Doctor's Inlet?
This is Nightbox, so it's the subdivision.
Oh, that's
to the-
on that
to
side,
the-
because
yes.
there's a new subdivision going in right next door to Doctor's Inlet.
That is included, yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
it is.
That's just
That's
another
crazy,
one of
huh?
those, you blink and all of a sudden it's there,
And
yeah.
they're there. Yeah, the infrastructure took a while, they did a lot of digging in there, and now they're
Mhm.
popping up like crazy.
Mhm.
so is this the only planned,
Yes, ma'am.
just?
There is another plan. Do nothing. So, but this one really just makes sense, and
This
it
is-
makes the
yeah, this
space
makes
available
sense,
for
yeah.
it.
I'm fine with
And, you know,
this.
I don't like making a plan to be thrown away, and that's what people do, hey, you should always give them 3. You know they're gonna throw this one away, but I don't want to do a throwaway.
And timing of this plan. We're looking at, is this a plan that we want to put in this particular change right now?
If you're asking me, yeah, but if the urgency isn't there.
And I'm wondering if this would be one of those that we are going to be in the business of making some changes over the next 4 or 5 years. The bottom line is we will be continue to make changes. And I'm wondering if this could be a lead-in for next year and that gives us then a year to advertise to the parents of the Lake Asbury Elementary students and be able to say, hey, Lake Asbury Junior High students and the Lake Asbury Elementary students, the 6th graders and possible 5th graders, to be able to say, hey, you're going to go back, or the Doctor's Inlet kids,
There's
or
a lot,
whomever.
yeah, swimming pen,
These
creek,
are all
and
swimming
there's
pen and
that's a huge
they're,
feeder pattern
and
going
that's,
into there.
yeah, there are a lot of different schools that it affects, and so I'm thinking, my personal recommendation would be that we put this off for a year, but not put it off,
Yes, ma'am.
but start advertising now.
My personal recommendation would be that if it's not immediate, we don't affect the kids who are currently at Lake Asbury Junior. We just affect the 6th graders that are going to be 7th graders, maybe not next year, but the following year. Does that make sense?
So I see what you're saying. So what
Right.
you're saying is that
Just say,
just say here, we're gonna put it into effect, but it's not gonna take effect until the
Until
rising
next year.
6th graders roll
Correct.
into it.
And I think that's a way that you don't disrupt the kids that are there, but the plan is in place, it's been approved, and, we have direction, and you know that the
parents meet
accommodation is
for
there.
orientation, this is the school you're going
Correct.
to.
But that still leaves us with double bus duty to take the 7th and 8th graders to Lake Asbury, who are 7th graders now,
Mhm.
and the 6th graders then to Lakeside.
It does make a
Does that make sense?
transition.
Am I saying that correctly? Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we'd want to just say 5th grade. I'm just throwing that out.
Mhm.
That way, but then again, we're going to end up with the 6th graders going to 8th grade. So,
There will be a period of transition, but again, I think like you said with Oakleaf, when we're the ones making the change, I think it's incumbent upon us to
Mhm.
provide the transportation during those growing pain years and then readjust our transportation routes.
We can do it. I mean, we have the buses,
it's just, we're all going
We'll get more
to,
jobs.
we're all going to get our driver's license, is what you're saying? Yeah, got it.
Yes. I think what Ms. Gilhelson was saying was that we leave the kids who are there now, 7th and 8th graders,
Right,
and then this change doesn't take effect until the
Mhm.
current 5th graders
we would go,
move into that school, so we shouldn't have kids going to 2 different schools, is that what you're saying?
Correct, right. It would affect, the kids that are the new 7th and 8th grade class, not the current.
Correct.
That makes lots of sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great. Very cool.
So how do we notify families of that?
Letter.
Mhm.
So there's letter and the same thing.
Mhm.
And we're gonna go to the school as well.
Yes.
So we would definitely go out to the school and say something, that would make sense to me, to make sure we go to Lake Asbury Junior, go to
Mhm.
Lakeside, and let them know.
But this wouldn't actually be affecting anybody for the next
No.
school year.
No.
Right.
Right,
This
it
would
would
be
be
Or-
effective. Right.
One or two.
I think it's.
So we have, of these neighborhoods, it appears that Doctor's Inlet Elementary and Swimming Pen Elementary are the two schools that are affected, is that correct?
We kind of roll forward a little bit here, so. we
Sure.
can look at that.
And the reason I'm asking that is perhaps that's where the meetings should go, so that we can
Correct.
talk with the families within the next few months
Yes,
to say, these are the changes that we're making.
right.
So Swimming Pen Creek and Doctor's Inlet,
Mm-hmm.
and, yes, Swimming Pen Creek and Doctor's Inlet, there might be a little bit of ride out here, but I'm not sure,
Okay,
but yes.
but I think if we went to those schools versus the junior highs, particularly since we're
That
dealing
makes
with
sense.
the elementary kids
Exactly,
and the
because
elementary
junior high is
families.
really, unless you wanna use it as one large area to come to, that's another option, but yes, it would make
Well,
more
you
sense
could do
to go
either
to the
school
elementary
too, for that
schools.
matter, yeah.
I think we have ample time, we need to go to them.
We need to go to both of them
Right,
too.
Okay.
I don't think we need to ask them to come to us. I
Mhm.
think we need to send a notification letter that says, you know, we're gonna be here this date and time to discuss the changes
Mhm.
and you have time.
And
I
that
think
opens it up to all families, it doesn't have to be just the fifth graders or
Sure.
whatever grade we're talking about.
Right.
Because there are going to be some younger families who are going to be looking at that saying, wait a minute, I heard this, what, I wanna get it from the horse's mouth, so to say.
Right, and I think that communication needs to be sooner than later, even though the
Mhm.
change
yeah.
won't take effect until later.
Mhm.
Just as this parent was saying that, you know, families want time to plan. Especially, and I think about parents who already have their carpool group, or, you know, they have their route planned out based on what time they need to drop this kid off to get that kid to that school, or, so I think the more notification we can give them, the better.
I'm just, Mr. Sweat, do you have all of these scheduled for you? Because you're going to be there going, yes, we can offer buses, yes, we can offer transportation.
And just showing you the difference in mileage, they're already going 7.62 miles to Lake Asbury, where it would come down to about 5 miles, but it's a little bit closer. All right. So the direction is I'll write up an item for this, and then we'll push forward. Elementary school, there's a lot of this is just gonna be some, information purposes as well. So if we're looking at, the different schools, and we had talked about the cafeteria size, if you look at Bennett right now, because they have a cafeteria issue, that puts them at 80%. We're looking at Patterson, but I think we have a way out for this. So I'm pretty excited about
Did I
this
scare
piece
you
right
off?
now with school hall. So I'm really gonna focus right now at
I
times.
did?
That times is my, and actually, we discovered it in a meeting with you.
It makes
So
sense.
that's exactly what
It
it was,
makes
so,
sense,
yeah,
yeah.
I'm not gonna take any credit for it, I'll leave it completely to you, because
Oh
that's where.
God, don't do that.
No, it's a good thing, it's a great
There's
thing.
like 2 neighborhoods are gonna
No,
hate
no,
me
no, no,
now.
no. So times is gonna be my focus, I do wanna run through the Patterson piece there, just for, and then Patterson, of course, being
You're
a
from
big
Patterson, right?
land mass.
Is
it's
your
really-
name Brooke? Yes, my daughter's going to junior high, so it doesn't affect me anymore,
Oh,
but I
okay.
still feel
I
passionately
wanted to
about
make
it.
certain that we met what you're what you
We're
wanted to
good.
come for,
We're
so.
good.
Our one public person.
He's very knowledgeable.
That's, you know, you made me laugh a little bit, because when we do the planning, the DRC, the Development Review Committee, they always ask the question, does any member of the public have anything they want to add? There's never anybody there.
Yep.
But we have to say it, just in case. So I'm just kind of showing what the Fleming Island landmass looks like, and showing you that I'm still projecting about 200 growing in there. Patterson can do nothing, we'll go to 121 people. We're going to do something. These are showing you that, looking at the numbers again, the skill housing, we're looking at all the expansion, how long we think it's going to take. Quite a bunch of builders in here in Magnolia, and also in Willow Springs. I forgot to ask, I apologize for that, so I'm looking at this. They're still putting stuff everywhere you go, no matter what piece of land, they're still trying to put that there. Here's actually highlighting the actual areas, and then just showing the Fleming Island versus the entire piece of the Patterson attendance area. This is one of those new areas that we were talking about. School R, which we're gonna talk about a little bit later, located right here. And like you had said before, the new neighborhood, we're gonna point it to, this is the new neighborhood, there's no kids there, so I'm not affecting any students because there's nobody there. They're gonna be going to Thunderbolt for now. Because it's a fairly good sized neighborhood. So let's talk times. And I just wanted to kind of zone in. Earlier I was telling you about the road, you can't see it here, here it is. This is on the county's website. There it goes. So this is Trail Ridge. Here's 23, and this is called, sorry, it's tough getting old. Atlantis Drive, so all space stuff. So Atlantis Drive is gonna come down through here and tie into Brandon Mills Boulevard, which will eventually tie into Old Jennings, and those are those neighborhoods that we were talking about earlier, possibly going to Ridgeview. So this road, look what's on either side of that land, lots of it. And that's the Ken Smallwood property there, so I kinda wanted to zoom in on that. Times has got a huge area, although it is a little bit offset by Jennings Forest, which nobody lives out there but raccoons and deer and such like that, but it's still part of their zone. It's bounded by the south by US 21, or Route 21, and then to the east by this is like a river that comes through. So lots going on in the Times area. Times capacity right now, they're at 104%. Same school as Patterson, if you look at the design, it's the same school. So what I'm looking at for here is looking at these two sections here going to Coppergate. Coppergate's got a real small attendance center. It's very pinpoint there, and there's no growth in that particular area. If we looked at Coppergate right now at about 74%, if we did nothing, Times would continue to grow, but Coppergate would not, because there's no growth in there now. So I'm looking at taking these particular areas, 26, 27, and 115, again, my numbers, sorry about that, 26, 27, 115, and having them go right down to Coppergate, instead of going all the way over to Times. The result would be bringing Times to 85%, allowing for growth, and bringing Coppergate into that 90 zone where we want them to be. And again, the state looks at what you want. You want to be in that area. The neighborhoods that we're looking at is Summerbrook, Brandon Mills Plantation, and Whisper Creek. If you're looking at mileage, about 2.5 miles to Times, and it's a little longer, believe it or not, to Coppergate if you go, I kind of went all the way up here to make the drive down through there.
How does that affect Coppergate's capacity as far as the academy, the performing arts that's there? Do we need to leave enough student stations or any SPAs for that?
I think even if we made this room, we'd have enough space there for the academy at 92%.
Okay.
Well, it gives us a 10%, almost 10% to 100%, and if we need to go over, wouldn't that be a wonderful problem?
That school, that would be nice.
Yes, that's what I am. I'm trying, okay, so where the bottoms, oh, sorry, you went back. I'm still trying to wrap my brain around where this section is. So where the bottom blue star is that where the Catholic Church is?
This is actually where, the Catholic Church, I believe, is up here.
So
this
there's
is
really
where
not.
the Lowe's and the Home Depot and all that stuff's in here, the Aldi.
Yeah.
Well, if you look in here, there's apartments going in here.
That's it, okay, thank you.
So
So they're
there's-
not built yet?
They're not built yet.
Okay,
There's
what
a nice
about?
pet paradise in there, though.
Yes, there
Honey, I saw that.
But that apartment complex has a lot of, that apartment complex has a lot of units, doesn't it?
It's fairly good size.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fairly good size.
Oh, that one would make sense. The other two are established neighborhoods.
Right. These are to Whisper Creek, and we had talked about them before.
Mm-hmm.
So the distance for them from Times to Coppergate, is it the transportation the same distance for the families or the bus ride for students?
Pretty
Right here.
close, about a half-mile difference between the two.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see that down there.
No worries.
Okay.
So again, looking at all the growth, Ms. Clark, and what's going on in here, I'm sorry, I didn't get to put my numbers here, sorry, I ran out of time. But if we're looking, there's a lot of growth going in here. And this one here, Kemmer Oaks, is just coming online. Kindlewood's almost built out. Azalea Ridge has just got a western expansion. Linda Lake's, another beautiful little neighborhood, is pushing out. Pine Ridge is growing in that area. Pine Ridge West, part of the same. Here's those unnamed apartments. There's actually another one going right south of Times.
Right there, yeah.
Right there. Yep. And then Fox Meadow, Unit 8 is that new one that we were talking about. That's going to be right in here. Another really cool piece of property that's in there. Okay. So if we went and made this change, Times would go to 85%, which would allow for growth. And then, of course, Coppergate would be at 92%, which is about where we want them to be. I threw this slide back in again because I'm ahead of myself, because I don't want to be here. This is Dave Gadbury Jr., and I'm ahead of myself here, sorry. So that's what we're looking at here. So this is where I'm looking for guidance from you all. Is this something where we would take these particular neighborhoods here and have them go to Coppergate? And we would open it to discussion at this point.
I think that makes good sense.
It sure
Yeah.
makes sense.
It does, and Coppergate, especially being the performing arts school, I would like to think that the families would be excited to have the opportunity to go there.
And would we, again, kind of take the slow approach of not affecting upcoming 5th and 6th grade?
That's your call. So I know that when we did Discovery Oaks, the boss said, no, you're going. And that was how that was. I can see it for high school for sure because there's a little bit of attention to it. But, you know, you're right. There's some folks that have gone to the school and they want to finish up at Times.
But you know, that
For the
does,
same token, then you can start doing like we did. You know, okay, you got a brother, you got a sister, you got this.
that would
you
create
got
problems.
this and that. So
Right.
it gets almost out of hand sometimes. So we gotta make a hard choice at this time and decide how we want to handle it.
I really would hate to affect rising 6th graders. That's a lot of change in a very short period of time to go, because then immediately they'll turn around and go to junior high.
Well, I guess we could give parents an option, but what do we do about the siblings? Now you have parents that have to drop this one at this school, and that one has to get on the bus to go to that school.
That's all I was saying, was it be an option for families, so that if you're an upcoming 6th grader,
Yeah.
you don't have to change. You know what I'm saying? But of
But-
course you can.
But then if they don't change, if they decide to stay and keep the siblings too, they may want to do that, and that could create more problems.
Yeah.
But the sibling wouldn't qualify.
Right.
Right.
We're talking 152 students. What do you think? You used to be the principal of Times.
I did have that privilege. One thing that I can tell you about Times, having just stepped out of that area, is that it is very family oriented. The families would not want a 6th grader at one school and then a K2 and a 4 at a different school. So I think you would have to review that on a case-by-case basis to see, and people may be excited, especially since they are already on that side, to just hop over, Blanding and go to Coppergate. But I would certainly open up that option.
And it's a very direct route
Yes.
to Coppergate from that area.
It is.
It's not a treacherous, I've got to go up here and then cross here and then down here and around there, it's just a pretty, I either turn left or I turn right.
And it's been my
Traffic might be
experience
a
with
hassle,
those
but
families,
going out
if you
the
send them a letter and you let them know, hey, just want to let you know, in this time frame, we are going to be doing this. And we are doing this because they've been very receptive.
Cool. Thank you.
So maybe instead of leaving out 5th and 6th grade, what we do is push it out a year, like Ms. Garrick has
And give them
suggested,
time.
that we give notification, and it wouldn't go into effect the 2022 school year, but it would go into effect the 22-23 school year.
Say that again?
So is
So
there a
that-
sense of urgency, or can we do what Ms. Billhausen said, and not the next school year, but the year after? Push this out one more year? I can support that.
Yes. Same thing, having meetings with the families at the school.
Now,
Yeah,
you could do that now.
yeah, and then
It's
within
in
the
place
next
and ready
few
to roll
months.
when it rolls.
And that way we do it well enough in advance and say, this is a change we're going to be making, and these are your options,
And I think specifically, what I would like to see at those town hall meetings, is some sort of presentation about what we offer at Coppergate.
oh, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way about the Ridgeview.
Absolutely.
There's so much at Ridgeview that is unique to Ridgeview. And I would really like to see these meetings not just be a town hall, but really an option or an opportunity to put our schools on display and show, this is what we have, what we're making
Like a
available.
video like we do at our meetings or
Or
whatnot.
even, you have
Maybe even a
tables set
handout.
up with some of our staff
Right.
that they can visit and learn about. This is what the IB program is. This is how it's different from ACE.
Well, and they also have, like, from the meetings, we have the school presentations, the school
Where they do their
showcases.
little showcase.
I
We
would
could use
love
the
a
showcases for that. I
Yes.
mean, that's a great reuse of some of that
But let's put
information.
together something that they can take home with them about the new school that they'll be going to, some pictures, some information.
Mhm.
So what I'm gonna do now, this actually concludes the part of the boundary alignment. So I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. Would you like to take a quick break, if anybody needs to take a quick break?
Yes.
Someone does? Is that okay?
5 minutes?
I'm taking my.
5 minutes?
5-minute break, okay.
So
What are
we
you
gave-
doing at
We
4:05?
gave direction on the high school for immediate, and then we gave direction on the junior high to be phased in, and direction on the elementary for 22-23 school year. And we're not touching Patterson. Good man.
Is that gonna solve the problem? Something like that.
We wait till everyone has a seat. Thank you. Mr. Pasa,
Yes, ma'am.
you've got our attention again.
So we're complete with the attendance alignments. So we're gonna go over some information stuff and a little discussion about Keystone, which I think is super important. And again, I put the slide back up again because I want you to see how real this is. My little drawings and cartoon stuff, but this is an actual photograph and again, showing all of the growth that's going through the Lake Asbury corridor. And it's an exciting time for I guess the new homeowners, and it's an exciting time for the schools. You can see Lake Asbury Elementary and the junior high are here, and all this cool stuff happening. So it's a great time to be part of One Clay right now, I think.
And that expressway is truly making progress.
It is truly
Wow.
making progress. It really is, faster than I thought. And
Yes.
the bridge, they're ahead of the schedule on that.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to talk about school art a little bit here. Now, this is something that is already approved in our education facilities plan. And these little green dots are kiddos. So every little green dot is a latitude and longitude. So when you were looking at our Patterson reach, and you can see this is the Patterson school zone coming down. All these green dots go to Patterson. This is the new neighborhood here. And so this is something that Ms. Carrick has pointed out and said, look, if we do school art, it's going to take care of the Patterson piece. She's absolutely right. It's going to take care of the Patterson piece. So we'll let Patterson ride, if that's okay. And then we put school art right here. All these guys, however we decide that we want to make that school district look, because we don't have it right now, but we'll build the school and like we did with Discovery Oaks, and then decide a couple of months ahead of time what that new attendance boundary will look like. But I'm most certainly going to tell you that it's going to include these guys here, because that's really the whole need behind it in this section here, because it would not make any sense for these folks to look across the street and see a new school and get on a bus and go 8 miles off the road to Paris.
Right.
So
When
I
are we
just
gonna
wanted-
start building that? What's our time frame?
The boss?
So we're working on looking at design right now, pretty soon bringing that to the board, and then we'll start construction's about 15 to 18 months, and then we'll open in August
August of 23.
August of 23.
23.
Okay, thank you.
It'll be here before you do it.
We really, the sooner the better.
Yeah. So just to show you the scale of this, we're looking at 2,700 new homes, about 585 elementary kids. And so I think, again, working with this land, already talking with Mr. Egan, that land has been cleared already. They used to be cows there, and they've already moved all the stuff out. So we're very excited about that happening.
The stuff.
It's going to lead, yeah, so I just wanted to show that to you guys, so you can get an idea of where we're headed with that.
And that new road will be coming through right near it.
The new road is going to come straight across, and then eventually they're also going to tie in Feed Mill Road, which I believe is right over here, and Feed Mill Road is going to come down and connect as well. And that's on the county's list of things to do.
Right, and there aren't any other circles there yet.
Well,
There will be.
This is a DRI, the
Yep.
section in here, which is called Saratoga Springs.
Yep.
And it's been idle for a while, but I did get a call from England, Thames and Miller, and they wanted to know all of our paperwork on it, which is a good thing because they don't have any exemptions from impact fees. In this particular one, they have to pay impact fees, they don't get credits, and there are 2 school sites on that property.
Okay,
as well.
I knew that there were some, and
Yep.
I couldn't remember. Thank
2
you.
school sites on that property. Great. So let's roll into Keystone here. Oops, I did that already. And I want to show you, I want to talk about Keystone, and again, those little dots represent all the kiddos that are in Keystone. Here is the boundary between McCray and Keystone Heights Elementary School. This is what we would like to do. We want to get a design architect to master plan the campus. And that's really short and sweet, that needs to be done. We've got you've got a high school down there, an elementary, and a potential junior high, and we're looking at, right now, our numbers, and when we talked about the cafeteria side, I wanted to show that this here, the 770 is the size of their cafeteria, this is their fish capacity. McCray, this is their cafeteria, this is their fish capacity. You can see the fish capacity is less. So we go with whatever's less. And that's why they're at 85%, but if I was to use their cafeteria, but really I have to use their seats. And because they use their seats, that's the number we use, and they're at 100%. And looking at Keystone Elementary, their cafeteria is smaller, so that's the number we use instead of this one. And that's what drives these numbers.
So you were talking about getting a design architect to come master plan the whole campus. Would that then supersede anything that we're doing with a plan for the new cafeteria? Because that's been, I mean, the principal at Keystone Heights has talked to, well, I've talked to her numerous times about that cafeteria and witnessed it. I mean, the sixth graders are in there like corn.
And there's only so much space, that's the problem. I mean, it's
there
not
an
a matter
issue
of
with
just
food
making it
now?
bigger, you have no space to make it bigger.
Right.
So
Isn't there
that's
an
the
issue
problem.
with how they're bringing the food over from the one school to the other?
They're actually in the gym,
Mm-hmm. Anyway.
they're
Yeah,
feeding
they're
them in the
split
gym
up. So it
because of the
is-
COVID. Yes, that's correct. So they're having to cart from the farthest point of the school to the farthest other point, which is the gym, to feed some of the kids.
Mhm.
So we do have the Keystone cafeteria is on a 5-year plan, but if we want to change that, we talked to Ms. Bullock kind of about the campus down there. And it's really several of the older elementary schools that need to be kind of master planned, feasibility, plans with architects, and they'll go out on sites and say, hey, this is kind of what we can do with the space that you have.
Right.
And that's kind of what we were talking about with Keystone Heights, was just kind
I
of
met-
redoing a master
yeah, I
plan
met
there
yesterday.
with some of the available property that they have. It's something we're gonna have to be creative with there.
So, and they would then, knowing our numbers, knowing what our needs are in that area, they would be able to say, okay, this is the kind of facility that you would want, or facility changes, or.
Correct, and then we can move towards the, planning, the actual construction piece of that.
And in Keystone's case, they did do a jump on, putting it out to the public. And the public was told, and I know the groups that were told, for the mayor and the council. There was a meeting with Lake Ridge and Kiwanis, Keystone Heights Rotary, and I believe there was a community meeting. All were told that the plan was to, on the empty field that's used to be the old McDavid softball field, which we own, the school district owns, to build an elementary school there, possibly a K through 5 as opposed to a K through 6, and then make the old elementary school, the current elementary school, make it a junior high school or a middle school, 6 through 8, and then the high school would become just strictly a high school, and then that would help with affordable reduction in all of those two schools for sure. The concern that was expressed yesterday was that enough space on McDavid Field. I did call Dr. Kemp yesterday, and he said that he and Mr. Connell had talked prior to, and that they had this, I guess they said it called it a smaller footprint, like a 2-story kind of building possibly at the McDavid Field for the elementary school. So, and because all of that was put out to the public, when we were doing the sale prior to the sales tax, I feel like we need to, and I think that's the best thing too, because it solves a lot of problems, in my opinion.
That was in the plan, the Ed First plan.
That was,
If you
and in
pull
fact,
it
I have a
up,
copy of it here, that's
That is
correct.
right there in the plan, the McDavid Field,
But
It
when?
was, and so looking at it at
For our
30,000
sales tax,
feet.
for
No, I
voters to
understand for
vote
the
on the
sales tax,
referendum,
but
this is the
that
plan that
plan
went with
was
it.
for 30 years. And what my
It was in
question is,
the
at what
2-year.
point?
Now, here's the plan right here.
2 to 5,
Let's see,
2
you
You
year,
can look at the time.
Thanks, yep.
so we should,
I'm sorry, you were talking.
No, so I was just saying that was one of the ideas. It wasn't ever master planned for this is what we can build there. And there's a timeline as far as what we have to do with the state and what we can get approval on
Right.
building. And we have facility lists that have to be board approved. So there's gonna be a process for if we have to do something smaller there, we're gonna have to go through the state and get a facility approved list from you guys and from the state. And that's not a hard thing to do, it's just more in the process.
So how do we move this up to correct that current problem that they have at that elementary school?
That's, I mean, we can start working with an architect now, but it'll be up to you guys if you wanna add that to the plan. We have to, revise the advertisement if you guys wanna do that.
Revise
If you wanna
the
start right now, the
five-year plan you
LCIS
gave us last month, is that what you're talking about?
and add
Which
it
we
to
can do
that, or
that.
we can do, yeah, or we
Right.
can add it in
It's
the,
not a big
in
deal.
the summer.
Well,
Redo that.
I know, I remember when Dr. Kemp was going around, because,
Was
the
there
town
too?
council meeting, you were with
Yep.
him at it.
Yep.
And he did go out to the community in Keystone, and he sold this to them, because he was getting them ready for the sales tax pitch.
Mhm.
So you kind of promised this community that we're going to address that problem at the elementary school, and now we're reneging on it.
No, I'm not ever saying
We're
that,
still,
that we're not gonna do something there, we never.
Yeah.
But we keep putting it on the back burner.
well,
Keystone is
I don't
forever.
deny that something needs to happen, we're talking about the growth piece first and kind of what the major problems are right now. But I don't disagree that something needs to happen in Keystone.
Well, and the
There are older buildings
Thank
there.
the cafeteria is on the 5-year plan,
And it
isn't
is,
it?
the cafeteria
I
is
mean,
on the
we had,
5-year
I had
plan.
asked
And that
about the
was to address
cafeteria, because that
capacity.
definitely
Right.
changes the population, or the percentages, and that's, what, 2 years from now?
Yes, it was to start design next year and then construction the following year.
But-
So if we
but-
built on that design, well, I'm just saying, if we built on that design aspect of it with the architect,
Mhm.
and said, okay, as part of, and I don't know what the rules are for posting everything,
And
but
there's
if you
more-
use that to see the overall plan, that would also help us.
And that's where it's beyond the capability of our office at this particular time.
Oh, yes, yeah.
There is, if you want to master plan it, that's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm,
There are challenges there with drainage.
mm-hmm.
There are challenges there with the new SREF requirements, the state requirements for educational facilities. As far as being a parent drop-off and a bus loop, they're not supposed to cross. These are things that have changed, which we were learning about. So, and that's kind of what David was talking about yesterday.
Mhm.
And that's why Bryce, like, we need to bring a master planner in here and look at this.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's important that we recognize there is a lot in that sales tax referendum package. The Ed First plan contained a lot of ideas, and none of them, to my knowledge, were tied to any time frame in that presentation. So, I mean, I think about how long have we talked about a junior high school on Fleming Island? I mean, that's
Probably
been-
not 50 years.
Well,
Okay,
no, not 50 years.
well, that's how
Not
long
50 years.
Keystone has been,
But
just
we're
so you
not
know.
campaigning
I'm
for
not
it.
saying that Keystone doesn't deserve attention.
50 years, I just wanted to say that number.
I hear you, but my point is, I think it's unfair to say that we've made promises that we're not going to follow through with, because that's not true.
Well, let's look at
But it
Keystone High
was,
School.
it was a presentation like that, I was at all of them.
No, I
Well,
believe you
no,
that it was a
we're
presentation.
agreeing with you. We're
Right.
saying that, yeah, and I
And
like
it-
the
and it
idea
will
of the
happen.
master plan. But doing the master plan and moving forward from that, we don't know what the master plan is going to recommend at this stage of the game.
Well,
And
we
the
can
other
change, we
portion
have
that's
the ability to
important-
change the master plan. Staff can bring it to us.
No, I'm sorry.
We have the ability to
I'm
say,
sorry, I meant the
we'd like it
architect,
differently.
the architect plan. I'm sorry, I
The
mean, I used the
feasibility, I
wrong
like to call it the
terminology.
feasibility, what's feasible on that site?
well,
That's what I'm talking about.
let's think about
We
what
need-
Keystone's had to deal with all along, because since Mrs. Bullock's been back on the board, she has gotten additional custodians for Keystone High School, an additional, is it the music director? Because they're a junior, senior, they're not treated like a junior high and a high school, where they have the same,
Yep.
a band director, a music director, an athletic, they're sharing everything. So those kids are at a disadvantage, especially those junior high kids that are other junior high schools. So I understand why you're pushing this so hard, because the community has been promised for a very long time, longer than we've all been on the board, that they're getting a junior high, just like Fleming Island. The difference is, nobody from the district went out and campaigned for the sales tax on Fleming Island saying, we're gonna get you a junior high.
They did to me, they didn't to you.
They did, no, I'm talking about our district. Dr. Kemp's team went out to all those organizations in
Right.
Keystone and said, this is what we're doing for your community.
Dr. Kemp explained to me that he was making that same presentation to Fleming Island about a K-8. Did that
No.
not happen?
Not that I know of,
Okay.
not that I know of.
That was what he told me, was that
Right.
he was planning to go out. So that's why I was saying,
Yeah.
this presentation, there were a lot of things in there, but none of them were given
Right.
timestamps, that's all I'm saying.
Well, we
And I'm
do-
not saying that Keystone doesn't
Deserve
deserve,
it, yeah.
no, that's
Not
not
at
at all
all.
what I'm saying, they do.
So we could very well move things up and go ahead and get your architecture to come out, design something for that piece of property, that's a 2-story, it's a small footprint, but that will fit and make it a middle school, so that we're taking the 6th graders out of the elementary school, which that solves that overcrowded problem. And then the junior high or middle school functions on its own, the high school does its thing, and they just have to share fields, which is how Dr. Kemp sold it to us. That was his plan on telling us what he was going to do.
That's a good plan, but there's still, if I'm not mistaken, there's still needs in, for instance, the elementary cafeteria that need to be upgraded.
No, there's only so much space, Mary.
No, I'm not saying, and I'm not saying enlarged, I'm saying upgraded. I mean, we just redid Doctor's Inlet cafeteria, it's gorgeous. They needed some additional equipment, and so they weren't able to function either. And that's why with the what am I trying to say? I don't want to say the master plan, because I don't want to confuse it with the feasibility, architect's feasibility study. That's what I'm trying to say. With that, we can then see what the overall plan might be and be able to take it a chunk at a time as well and relieve some of the pressure in the elementary school, upgrade the facilities, which are exactly what
It's
we need
space,
to
no, it's
do.
space that they need, it's not upgrading, it's space they need, and they don't have that.
So they don't need anything in the cafeteria kitchens themselves.
They satellite the food over,
But
they
are they
satellite it
always
over.
going to do that? I
Well,
mean, I'm thinking
there are
if
only
they,
so much space, again.
well, I understand, but
So
I'm
you
saying
can't-
if they, using that 2-story junior high or middle school as an option,
The 2-story would be the elementary school. And where the
Elementary
elementary
property.
school, Dr. Kemp is
whatever
gonna do
the
junior high.
planner, whatever the master
Well, and
planner
again, that would
decides,
have
but.
to be, we would have to look at numbers there, because that's, the elementary school there is, it's a big school, there's 1,200, almost 1,100 kids there. The junior high numbers that we have there are like 400, that's small,
Yeah.
that's not a full junior high.
We would take 6th grade out, and we'll create that as a middle school, so the new elementary.
You'd only have 3 grade
K
levels.
through 5,
Right,
and then a 6, 7, 8, so losing one whole grade level there.
right,
We'll bring
Well-
that number down,
right.
so it'll be more like maybe
But that's what I mean
900.
with the feasibility, what do we wanna do there? I mean, I just need direction on what kind of facilities you guys
Oh, go ahead.
wanna do. That's
Well,
it.
what I'm hearing is that the design architect to master plan the campus is something that I'm hearing positive. I'll take a nod or a yes.
Yes,
Yeah,
Yes,
I'm all, I'm
yes.
a master plan.
Yes,
I
yes.
would love to see there.
To master plan the campus, we need to start with a plan.
Yes.
We're hearing, well, this is what Dr. Kemp said, we're hearing this is what we could do, this is what our needs are, that there's not enough room, that there's not enough space. We're not the professionals. Just because Dr. Kemp said it doesn't mean that that might not be the best plan, if the other side of that.
Yes, that's what I
And
just
so
wanna
the
start narrowing
design
it down.
architect to give a master plan of the campus would be wonderful. It gives us a starting point.
Yes.
Or we
And
can
if
say,
they
hey,
options,
yeah, it's been
maybe
50
more than
years,
one
we need
option
to
when they
step
do
up
that.
and do
Oh, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Actually, the
Okay,
school's
I
out
don't want it
the
to
elementary
be
school.
one mindset, and that's
So-
it.
No, we meet with
really
end
wanna know.
users and whoever wants to
It's
be
probably the
involved in
oldest
that
school in
process.
the village.
Should certainly be.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
Good, so how long does
And the
something like that
instruction,
take?
and the instructional team as well, we wanna know from their standpoint, what kind of facility is gonna work down there.
Mhm.
At K-5, we have to do the facility plan through the state, we have to do a lot of backup work behind the scenes with it. But, I mean, we can start on that now.
In the meantime, could we do something where, in order to help with that overcrowding, we take, and I don't even know, just throwing this out here, so if it's crazy, it's crazy. But is there like a small little cluster of portables that could maybe do some kind of, at the high school, that could be maybe like a Montessori academy type thing for grades like 2 through 6 or something to help with overcrowding at the elementary school and offer something new? You know, I mean, the Montessori at Swimming Pen, people love it.
Yeah.
And you know, when it first came about, I was like, not
No,
so sure.
but that-
People
that-
love it,
I mean, Montessori starts at the pre-K level.
right? So we
And
have to
I
build
wonder, I
on.
mean, you know, one of the first things when we were talking about the overcrowding at Keystone, the first thing I thought about was, well, they took the 6th grade out of Argyle
Right.
and moved it over to Oakley. And yeah, there were a lot of parents who fought it because their kids weren't old enough yet for junior high.
Right.
But we're also looking at, well, if it's a temporary fix, that's exactly what we ended up with at the elementary schools in that neighborhood. The Oakley, the Plantation Oaks, and the Argyle, all ended up getting their 6th graders back.
Right.
And, I mean, that's another option, that's an immediate option, and I don't know what sort of space, they would obviously, I would assume, have space at the high school, because they're not at,
Of course, again, then you're having 6th grade, through 12th grade. So
Yeah,
you're
well,
having
but I'm not
10,
thinking-
11-year-olds
I'm not thinking them with them though, I was
Okay, like a
thinking maybe
separate-
take little ones
separate
and
from
have
them.
one little section
and they've
where,
got lots
and it's
of
just a
portables.
suggestion, you know, where
Yeah.
it's an option of something you could do that parents might really wanna be a part of, but I wasn't thinking it does start and build. I mean, you can't just take
You
them
can't-
4th
I mean,
grade
it
and
would-
throw them into
It's an,
it.
yeah,
Yeah.
there's a,
Well, it was just a thought, you know, I was trying to think in the
I
meantime,
know
because
you're-
I think it's very important that we address Keystone.
Sure.
I know we have needs everywhere, and we've done, you know, a fairly good job of looking at everything, and we're looking at the new growth and building the new
Fairly
school,
good job.
which we have to
Yeah.
do. Mr. Fossey done a wonderful job.
Very good job.
But I think, as was said the last time, we're ignoring this existing problem, and we can't keep putting it on the back burner as, well, we'll get to Keystone,
agree.
we'll get to Keystone, we'll get to Keystone. We have to get to Keystone.
And that's why I suggested doing that feasibility plan, because that's really the best way. You bring a third party to look at it, that knows the rules, the new SRF rules, and knows the rules for the St. John's River Water Management District, and say, this is what we have, this is what we would like, or this, what can we do?
I mean, that's why, I don't wanna
Do
force
that.
the cafeteria, you know, the cafeteria was
That's it,
coming
yeah.
up and I didn't wanna
Right.
force that on them.
No,
So
and I
we need a
think-
plan.
that's right.
I don't wanna put a Band-Aid on
I
something,
agree with
then we
you.
turn back and around and
Right.
make it into something else,
And
so.
I would get Mrs. Bullock in the loop on that,
Absolutely.
and get, you know, her feedback on it.
Well, let's
One more
get
question. So
the,
what is the timeline to get this rolling? Like, how long would it take before we can
I'll
get a
have to talk-
team and get a
Yeah,
report?
well, we have 4 countywide architects, we can use one of them and, talk to them, I can talk to them tomorrow and find out how long that's done. They've done it before for other school districts, I know they've said they do that. So, depending on how big and how much we wanna do.
Right.
And they're not gonna design the buildings,
No.
it's just gonna be a layout of space, how much stormwater, how much
Can
parking,
this
how
go
much
there?
parent
Right.
pickup, bus,
facility.
and doing all that planning, but it will take, you know, I would say several months.
And then what Bryce will direct us to do is to do the facilities list. That will go to you, because you can only have one facilities list per grade level. So right now, we don't have a 6 through 8, we can have a 6 through 8, and then we have to get you guys to approve that.
And I forwarded some information, Melrose Elementary School, which is in Putnam County, but it's also near the border of our school. They're getting ready to close that school. So I've already had a request, in fact, I forwarded to you today, for a student to come from there to our school. And that's gonna happen, we already have a lot of those kids, because that school is a K through 5. So what they do is, in 6th grade, they go to McRae. They do a out of district, try to go to McRae, and then so they can go on to the high school. So now we're already starting to see, because those parents anticipate that school may close. Now, I don't know whether the board will approve that or not.
Is this
But
Melrose Elementary?
uh,
Is this Melrose Elementary?
Melrose Elementary,
Yeah.
that's
And
correct.
they're in what county? Putnam.
Putnam County, but it's used to be where all 4 counties came together and kids from all 4
I
areas
heard-
went to that school.
I heard there's several school closures.
They're gonna close 5, they're planning on closing 5,
Right.
but that's one of them.
Okay.
Of course, I'll be surprised if it closes,
I
because
talked-
they're gonna have a lot of,
I talked to my counterpart today, and
Yeah.
he said, you thought the assault of the Capitol was rough?
oh yeah.
Wait till you see us trying to do this.
Oh yeah, they won't wanna close that, I've already seen a lot of that. But these parents anticipating that are already starting to email, which I knew was what gonna happen, and that's exactly what happened, because I got my first email today. So,
Well, that's another question. I mean, we've had border agreements with Putnam and with Baker?
Bradford and Alachua.
I think Bradford's the only one that you guys have approved this year. was
Say
Bradford.
that again?
This year specifically, because I know Mike Wingate worked on it before he retired, so the only one that I believe that's in place right now is the Bradford County agreement.
And Bradford is where the school closures are.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Putnam.
but Putnam.
No, Putnam, but Putnam, we have Putnam
But-
County kids at McRae.
Well,
Yeah,
and that's,
I heard Bradford.
No,
You guys,
maybe it's
Putnam.
Bradford.
No, they're
also, I don't
yeah.
know.
Not, yeah, I don't know about Bradford, but I
I
know
had a
Putnam.
there's,
resident
and how, do we
from
know how
Melrose.
many kids are from other counties?
Yes,
Yep.
there's,
We
have
do.
you got those numbers?
He's
right?
got that
Yeah.
information.
Quite a few.
Okay, so if we're looking at McRae has 4 from Alachua, 25 from Bradford, and 20 from Putnam.
45?
25.
No, I'm
So
saying
for a
45
total
total.
of 20, 40, almost 50.
Yep.
So we have 50 from out of county, the largest being from Bradford
That's at McRae.
And that's
McRae.
just at McRae.
and McRae. Keystone has 1 from Alachua, 27 from Bradford, 5 from Putnam, and then we have 34 SPA out of county, which must be teachers that
Yeah,
live out
usually
here.
that's the
Right.
employees.
The teachers, so the others though, we have what, 43?
So in McRae, we've got.
No, I've got the McRae, the
okay.
Keystone Heights.
So Keystone
yeah.
is 27, 5, and 1.
I would check
42,
on that Bradford
33.
County agreement because I did hear that the school closures were in Bradford.
Well, I talked to the maintenance guy,
Bradford?
in Putnam.
Right.
Putnam.
It's him, they're the.
Putnam's
Now, there
Bob.
may be
So-
some in Bradford, I didn't call
Right,
him.
exactly,
But
that's
they
my
told me they
point.
were closing, they're
Bob,
going before
We
the
don't
board on
have
16.
an agreement with
He said he don't think it's gonna pass.
Do we?
Well, no, because I was going through looking at it yesterday, and the only one that I could find that was most recent that you guys had voted on before the school year started was Bradford, and Mike Wingate was the one who worked on that with them.
So
I would reach out to Bradford and make sure they're not closing schools, and then we have this agreement. Do you know what I'm saying?
I totally
That could
get
be a
that.
perfect
I'm looking
storm.
Well, the
at this
agreement
one,
goes
that's
year
a
by
lot of
year.
students right
Right.
there.
So it does go year by year, so it's always something that both
We would
boards
have
look
to-
at that they would take back. So I know this agreement only goes for the 2021 school year.
Okay,
And
well,
then it
can
would
we
be something
check
that, yeah,
with Bradford?
definitely
Okay.
check.
I mean, that takes it down, and if neither of these schools are open enrollment.
Correct. So that was like a whole nother point that I was talking about with like controlled open enrollment. And I know I feel like I spoke to Ms. Karakis, maybe it was after December, because you're on the committee with it, about the postponing. Because until we have this discussion, we don't know what schools to
Right.
allow open and not open.
Right.
And then looking at St. John's, they have like a clause in their controlled open enrollment. I actually pulled it up, that it's basically, they look at the long-range student projections are incorporated into the district's capacity determinations. So like when you're speaking about things like, okay, we're gonna push some kids to Thunderbolt, push some kids to Coppergate, those are 2 normal controlled open enrollment schools. So is Ridgeview High or Orange Park High. So that's a whole nother discussion, because normally we're at 85%, but we could actually reduce it to 80% as well, if we wanted to. No, you wanna go lower, so 80%. Yeah, St. John's
Right.
has theirs at 80.
At 80, okay.
Yeah, because if you're at 90, that means I can fill it up to 90%. I have to look at who's under 80. So,
Did we vote on that percentage?
we have not, so it comes with the plan, so that's why we were pushing back the plan this year, because, first of all, we didn't know how many kids were coming back from the November survey. Then, we knew the growth was crazy, then I knew like 4 of the schools that are normally controlled open enrollment could be impacted by rezoning, so then you don't wanna rezone and then have controlled open enrollment. But yeah, historically, Keystone's never been controlled open enrollment, but people still got in because of the inter-county agreements.
Right. And we've had that for as long as I've been on the board with both Putnam and Bradford.
We've
I'm
had it
surprised-
for years, but I mean, we're at a point where we're looking at our schools are full,
Right,
and they don't pay taxes.
correct,
We don't get that tax.
That's
We're
right.
taxing our own people to get these folks.
that's correct.
I'm sorry, but
No, and
I mean, I pay taxes and I want my students to
There's
be able
all-
to go to these schools.
it always
so-
happened like once or twice a year where kids would call us and say, hey, my kid just finished out 6th grade, I don't see Keystone Junior Senior on the controlled open enrollment list. I wanna keep my kid continuing through, and there's been the agreement to allow it to happen.
Well, for the high school right now, that's been okay. It's
But-
my understanding,
It is,
because of the percentage that the high school's at. But my concern is allowing new students to come
correct,
into these
the
schools.
elementary.
And that's where I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, time out. You know, we've built a decent program, and I feel for these counties who are feeling that they have to, why are they closing their schools? Because of the population?
That's what he was saying.
Well,
So-
there's
And so they have to,
I think 2 of their schools are like close to 75 years, and I think it
well,
was
so are
just,
ours.
I know, I think it was
I mean,
something like
Orange
tear it
Park
down and
Elementary,
rebuild.
Keystone,
That,
yeah.
that's
So
true.
100
He
years
was
So
talking
they're,
about
they're
rebuilding.
gonna rebuild is what it was, because I think they
Yeah,
actually were having their board meeting today, and it was part of their discussion, is that they were gonna close 5, go out for a referendum, and build 9.
What do they intend to do with all those students?
Send them to Clay.
Redistricting.
Yeah.
They were gonna they were gonna talk about
Melrose
redistricting and
kids are gonna
rezoning where those
Rockwell.
kids would be absorbed into other areas of their county.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, there was like a,
They were gonna send
there was
the
like a
thinking.
protest already at the school yesterday at Melrose.
Oh, yeah,
It
they've
was
been
on the news.
protesting for
Oh, was
days
it?
now.
Like,
outside the
yeah.
school.
I don't blame them.
Mr. Foss, I have a question. You talked about our facilities list.
Yes.
We used to have a middle school as well as junior high. After we closed the middle school and made it a junior high, did we then
I didn't
reapprove
need
that
to look
list?
at the facility
Because
list.
I
to
don't
see if
remember
it's on
that.
there. I'll take a peek
It
at
might
that.
still be on it.
It
It's
might
not
still
there
be.
anymore.
It's
Okay,
not
we'll
there.
have to redo it.
Okay. It's an easy thing.
We look, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not.
Okay. Thank you.
And
Is that it?
Yes,
This
No
ma'am.
more good news?
Yes, ma'am, that's it.
I just
Thank
wanted to commend you. This has been a wonderful workshop. This is all backup. All of this backup is on the website. I just refreshed my agenda and it's all right there.
It is now.
So, I understand, but now it is. And so anyone who goes to this workshop can see exactly what we talked about, what we discussed. We're going to have the minutes available, I'm assuming, and we'll have that information then for us all. And we have some plans, which is huge. And I appreciate all that you've done, and Bryce, thank you very much for everything that you do to help this move in the right direction. Any other comments, Mr. Superintendent?
No, I just would commend the board for taking on this topic. I know it's not a glowing topic that people want to take on, and you know, brought forth a plan, you know, right away. And so, a lot of good discussion, a lot of compromise, and a lot of good work here today. And so I'm very appreciative, because ultimately, the Oak Leaf High School situation needed to be
Absolutely.
done right away. A great plan with delaying some of these so the parents have more time frame, and I understand the time frame issue. So I'm gonna segue into something different, not on growth. You know that the 20th of January is the second semester. So I would not be surprised if, bringing back almost 4,000 students, you have to consolidate some of the OCO classes. So let's pretend, for example, a teacher currently teaches, or last semester taught 19 students in an OCO environment, and let's say that 14 of them decided to come back brick and mortar. You realize that what's going to happen in that scenario is that teacher is going to go back brick and mortar, and those 5 students that are left, if my math's correct, are going to be consolidated with another teacher.
Right.
And so I know that I've received a couple of emails relative to this topic. Please be assured that every effort's going to be made to have the least disruption to people. I realize that people get attached to their teacher and all of that, we recognize that. But you cannot move 4,000 people without moving some teachers in that process. And, you know, I'll do my best. If you want to send the emails my way, I'll do my best to explain that and do the best I can to provide good customer service for people. But that is something that I see. You know, I've gotten 4 or 5 emails, and I think you have too. And as we get closer to the 20th, I would suspect that we would get more. And so I'm just giving you the heads up. And if there's, you know, send them my way, and I'll be glad to take care of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bickner, any comments?
That's good.
Ms. Kirkus?
I'm good, thank you.
Ms. Clark?
Of course. You gave us the toughest one first, you know that, Oak Leaf. I just wanted to throw out a little idea. I don't think it's gonna make a difference one way or the other, but I've had as a realtor, I see people trying to get away from these big subdivisions and not wanna pay the fees, and they wanna go back to the old part of Orange Park where there's some land. We've got people that live in the Orange Park Elementary area that would like to walk their children to school, but they didn't take part in the lotto, or couldn't, or didn't make it. And I'm wondering if we could come up with some way to allow them, as long as they follow the concept school rules, to be able to go to their local school and walk versus be put on a bus and have to go elsewhere. Just something, there's probably not more than a handful of people, but we're gonna see more and more people coming. I mean, where I live, we walked to OPE and we crossed Kingsley, no big deal. But, like I said, it may be 5 students now, but it could be 10 or 15 in a couple of years, just something to think about.
Thank you. Ms. Gilhousen.
Nothing from me.
Ms. Bullock? This has been an afternoon. We appreciate all the hard work that you did again, Mr. Vasa. There ought to be questions. On that note, I think we're adjourned.